Xiang Beifei earnestly shared his understanding of the rapid flame technique with Lu Hong, who nodded thoughtfully. The improvement process might seem light and easy to talk about, but it wasn't so simple to master. Uncle Lu, let's continue. I came today for Liangzhou University's assessment, and I don't know what obstacles they will set up, so you need to use late-stage qi controlling strength. I need you to point out my weaknesses, Xiang Beifei said. In truth, he was half there to help Uncle Lu complete the system's mandatory task, and the other half to truly spar with Lu Hong. The assessment at Liangzhou University was in the coming days, and it was impossible for him to step into the later stages of qi controlling within this month. He had to know where he stood in comparison to a late-stage qi controlling expert. It's not so much about giving pointers, but about improving together. Lu Hong laughed loudly, and this time he wasn't careless, elevating his spiritual power to the late stage of qi controlling. However, the previous exchange had made Lu Hong cautious. He knew that even if he used late-stage qi controlling strength, he might not necessarily get the better of Beifei, because both of them used the rapid flame technique, and his rapid flame was inferior to Beifei's. He needed to learn from Beifei. Whoosh! Xiang Beifei's punches once again exploded with powerful force, striking at Lu Hong. Lu Hong also charged forward, clashing hard with Xiang Beifei again. Bang! Their punches collided, and this time they seemed evenly matched. Good lad! Lu Hong was genuinely surprised in his heart. He had already used late-stage qi controlling strength, yet he only managed to fight to a standstill with Xiang Beifei, who was in the mid-stage of qi controlling. But at this moment, Xiang Beifei didn't slow down. His left hand lashed out again towards Lu Hong's chest. Lu Hong blocked the fist with his own hand, and at the same time kicked upward. Beifei immediately smashed his fist down, deflecting Lu Hong's kick, and turned around with another punch. Bang! 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 The two exchanged more than a dozen moves in an instant, each throwing punches quickly and powerfully. The rapid flame technique was naturally domineering, every punch bringing with it an enormous roar, like the sound of a sonic boom. Yet, the more Lu Hong fought, the more shocked he became because Beifei, with only mid-stage qi controlling power, not only showed no signs of weakening but also seemed to be gaining the upper hand. Bang! Xiang Beifei's punch landed squarely on Lu Hong's face. Lu Hong took a sharp breath. That punch was rather harsh. Sorry, facing late-stage qi controlling Uncle Lu, I have to give it my all, Xiang Beifei said earnestly. No need to apologize, just hit. You hitting me is the only way I can understand how you execute rapid flame. Lu Hong touched his face, quickly regaining his composure. Both were using the rapid flame technique and only that. Therefore, it was normal for Lu Hong, despite being the stronger, to be punched several times by Xiang Beifei since his boxing technique wasn't as good as Xiang Beifei's. Lu Hong didn't take it to heart. If he wanted to defeat Beifei, Lu Hong would have to elevate his level even more. Given the situation, late-stage qi controlling wasn't enough. But Lu Hong had no intention of doing so. He wasn't there to win against Beifei. He was clear about what he needed. The two sparred in the training room for an entire day. Lu Hong needed to ponder over Xiang Beifei's rapid flame, and Xiang Beifei needed to discover his own shortcomings from Lu Hong. Therefore, neither held back. But it was evident that Lu Hong still suppressed Xiang Beifei with his experience. The reason was simple: Xiang Beifei's rapid flame was stronger than Lu Hong's at first, but when he shared his way of executing rapid flame with Lu Hong gradually grasped the technique and elevated his rapid flame to a higher level. In the following exchanges, he slowly began to hold his own. That was precisely why Lu Hong had been worried that Beifei wouldn't reciprocate. Everyone is selfish, after all. If one aspect of themselves is strengthened, that aspect becomes their advantage. If they disclose their advantage to an opponent, the advantage vanishes. So, Lu Hong had always wondered, if Beifei were to improve the rapid flame martial art, would he teach it back to him in return? This question had troubled him for a month until he found his answer today. Xiang Beifei chose to share the method of the martial art he had comprehended, which made Lu Hong extremely grateful. For Xiang Beifei, going from having the upper hand to gradually being at a disadvantage was all because he revealed the improved rapid flame technique, which may seem foolish. But he was well aware that he didn't actually lose anything. Discover hidden stories at mvlenovelbin.net. The rapid flame martial art was originally taught to him by Uncle Lu, part of the Lu Hong system's cultivation techniques. When Lu Hong passed it on to him, he did so without hesitation and quite readily. Currently, Uncle Lu is still suppressing his own cultivation level to spar with him. Under normal circumstances, Beifei is no match for the Meridian opening stage Uncle Lu, so losing to Uncle Lu wasn't a big deal at all. And he only ever lost to one person, Uncle Lu. As for others in the later stages of chi controlling, he might not necessarily lose with the help of rapid flame. Besides, Lu Hong becoming stronger would also benefit Beifei, since Lu Hong had never let him down. As the sun set, both men stopped, gasping for breath, and sat on the ground without moving. At that moment, the system interface for Lu Hong popped up with a line of text. You have received feedback from Xiang Beifei's improvement of rapid flame. The rapid flame martial art has been entered into the database. The power of rapid flame is enhanced by 20% over the original, and you have completed the feedback task. Task completed. The host may claim the reward. 1 advanced pill. Task completed. Lu Hong excitedly clicked to claim it, then looked at the advanced pill in his hand. There were 2 methods for him to enhance his cultivation. One was through his own training, and the other was with the help of the system. Because he had sustained injuries during his younger days while on duty which affected his fundamental strength, it was nearly impossible for him to advance through training alone, so he had to rely on the advanced pill provided by the system. He had been saving up investigation value for several years to purchase this advanced pill, but was still short by over 100,000. He had thought it would take another 7 to 8 years to gather that amount. But to his surprise, with Beifei's help, it only took 1 month. 1 month's worth of his effort was equivalent to nearly 10 years. With this advanced pill, he would soon become a mid-stage meridian opening cultivator, and his strength would rise to another level. Beifei, I owe you one, Lu Hong gratefully said to Xiang Beifei. You have no idea how much your teaching me the improved rapid flame has helped me today. It was also one of my system tasks. Lu Hong did not hide this fact, thinking Beifei was unaware of his system tasks, so he shared the information with him. I'm glad I could help Uncle Lu, Xiang Beifei said. You're about to participate in the Liangzhou University assessment, and I need to give you a hand. Last time I thought you were just at the early stage of chi controlling, so I only gave you the system items for the mid-stage of chi controlling. But since you have the strength of the mid-stage, I need to give you some later-stage chi controlling system items to protect yourself. Lu Hong browsed through his system's shop, contemplating what could help Beifei. Since he didn't need to use investigation value to buy the advanced pill, the investigation value could be spent. Not all system items could be used to help others. After all, the system was specifically crafted for the host and not for someone else, so Lu Hong had to be selective. Uncle Lu, there's no need for now. If I need something, I'll come to you, Xiang Beifei said. He holds an amulet, a qi and blood pill, a qi-raising talisman, and a Hichu tortoise shell. These things were all related to the advanced stages of chi controlling. The next constellation ability still required 4 advanced stage chi controlling system items, which he had already accumulated. Now, he just needed to raise his cultivation to the advanced stages of chi controlling. No, I must insist. With your strength, those azure light armors, flame dragon escapes, and the like, are utterly useless to you, nothing but trash. Lu Hong was still contemplating what could provide the greatest help to Xiang Beifei. Those things are still very useful. I used your items to deal with Yu Lei that day, he replied. Last time Xiang Beifei lit up the constellation for the mid-phase of chi controlling with Lu Hong's system items, acquiring abruptly stop, and in some aspects it indeed indirectly helped him to deal with Yu Lei. Really? Lu Hong was somewhat skeptical. I thought beating him was just a matter of one punch for you. I really don't need it, Uncle Lu. You also know I can handle ordinary advanced stage chi controlling now. I don't need those at the moment. If I need something else in the future, I will definitely come to you, Xiang Beifei assured. Xiang Beifei still decided to let Uncle Lu save his investigation value for emergencies. Seeing Xiang Beifei talk this way, Lu Hong pondered for a moment and seriously said, "Okay, whatever you need, don't be polite with me. I have at least 150,000 system values prepared for you, perhaps even more. As long as you need it, I can give you more." Lu Hong was a generous and genuine person. He remembered the favor very clearly, and it was far from comparable to a mere 150,000 system values. Meanwhile, Lu Hong's investigation system had suddenly issued a series of tasks. Analysis of rapid flame feedback from the database is complete. The system has detected that rapid flame may possess even greater potential. Due to the substantial increase in combat power that rapid flame has brought to the host, the system will increase the feedback reward. Should Xiang Beifei continue to improve and provide feedback, the host will receive even higher system rewards. For every 10% increase in rapid flame's power, plus 10,000 investigation value. If rapid flame's power is increased by 50%, the host will receive a rapid flame fire formation capable of trapping and killing enemies in the final phase of meridian opening. If rapid flame's power is increased by 100%, the host will receive an advanced pill for the final phase of meridian opening. Current power increase. February 10th. This task, Lu Hong, seeing the new task released by his own system, was so astonished he was at a loss for words. An increase of 20% in power had already brought him tremendous benefits, but he had never expected that after analyzing Xiang Beifei's feedback on the punches, his system identified that rapid flame held much greater potential. If he could increase it by 100%, he could step into the final phase of meridian opening with Xiang Beifei's help in one fell swoop. Lu Hong found his breathing becoming rapid. He had been stuck in the preliminary phase of meridian opening for more than a decade, and had only recently reached the middle phase. He thought that was his limit, but his system now provided an estimate of even greater potential. If Xiang Beifei could become stronger, wouldn't he also be able to quickly advance to the final phase of meridian opening? "What is it?" Xiang Beifei asked. "You'll never guess what happened to my system again," Lu Hong said with a wry smile. "I don't know how to put it, but can you improve rapid flame any further?" Xiang Beifei saw the new task released by Lu Hong's investigation system, and after pondering for a moment, he replied, "With my current level of spiritual power, this is as powerful as rapid flame can get. Maybe if I reach a higher realm, I'll see if there is more room for improvement. Then, if my cultivation level advances further in the future, and I'm able to improve rapid flame, I'll inform Uncle Lu at the earliest," Xiang Beifei said. "Ah, thank you," Lu Hong said gratefully. At this moment, Lu Jiwei pushed open the door from outside the training room, and after spotting the two, she put her hands on her hips and said, Well, so you've been training in secret again without me. Haha, what are you jealous about, girl?"
Lu Hong looked artily.
"As if I'm jealous." Lu Jiwei rolled her eyes and holding her phone said, "There's trouble, and you have no idea. What's happened?" Xiang Beifei asked. "It's all because of the mess caused by that article from Yulei." Lu Jiwei came in looking serious. Find exclusive stories on m_vl_enovelbin.net. Standing up, Lu Hong grabbed 2 towels, threw one to Xiang Beifei, and asked, "What about the article? Wasn't it deleted?" Xiao Zhang is a cyber cop, and he's thorough with his work. The law enforcement team's technical department had a guy named Zhang Youfa, who had awakened the S-Class tracking system. After becoming a cyber cop in the team, his technical skills were top-notch, and all kinds of mindless trolls and keyboard warriors had to walk around him carefully. There was an incident where someone who had awakened the Zhuan greeting system confronted Xiao Zhang online, and Xiao Zhang simply traced the electronic trail back to the guy's location, pulled him out of bed without letting him dress, and dragged him to the law enforcement team in just his underpants. I'm not talking about that article, but about Liangzhou University. Dad, you graduated from Liangzhou University, so you should know there's a tree-hole section in the school forum, right? Lu Jiwei said. "I know about that. What's wrong?" Lu Hong asked as he wiped off sweat. Now Beifei has become the subject of discussion in that treehole section, and many of the comments are quite unfriendly, Lu Jiwei said. Treehole. It's an anonymous forum on our Liangzhou University's school network. In that place, every Liangzhou University student can anonymously air their grievances about the various trivialities of school life. When the academic pressure gets too high, they can vent out there and say whatever they want to relieve their stress. Lu Jiwei explained. So, what's got to do with me? Xiang Beifei asked. Because of that article Yulei posted last time, many netizens got riled up and started attacking our Liangzhou University's Weibo, hurling all sorts of insults. If a Liangzhou University student were to post a Weibo defending the school, they would be verbally attacked by uninformed netizens to the point of breakdown. This has greatly impacted our Liangzhou University, Lu Jiwei said earnestly. Lu Hong frowned. Didn't I clarify everything clearly online? Yulei started this, and he is the one who should be condemned. But the problem is, it seems that many students from Liangzhou University now believe that this incident is a conspiracy between Beifei and Yulei, with Beifei planning to use Yulei to pressure Liangzhou University and gain admission through the back door. Now they are saying some pretty nasty things about Beifei, Lu Jiwei said. So what? Xiang Beifei didn't care. Lu Hong was browsing posts in the tree hole on his phone and suddenly spoke in a deep voice. The problem does seem quite serious. Lu Jiwei thrust her phone into Xiang Beifei's hands and said, "Take a look for yourself." The tree hole was filled with various discussions about Xiang Beifei, the top scorer with an N-level awakening. Many people were disdainful of Xiang Beifei. N-level trash can enter our Liangzhou University? So what if his scores were good? Does his system talent match our school? Exactly. Letting this kind of person into our Liangzhou University is simply an insult to our Liangzhou University's reputation. Does he, an N-level, really think he can contribute to the Zhuzhou Union? Can't he take a good look at himself in the urine? Who gave him the courage? If this Xiang Beifei is lucky enough to get into our Liangzhou University, I guarantee that every time I see him on campus, I will take good care of him. Does he really think our Liangzhou University is a place where any Tom or Harry can get in? Right? Count me in. The audacity he has, thinking he could rely on public opinion to enter our school. Yes, if he gets into our Liangzhou University, I'll be the first to pay extra attention to him. Maybe next semester I can apply to be a teaching assistant at Liangzhou University. Give him a hard time. Don't rush. He hasn't gotten in yet. I think the school should increase the difficulty of his entrance examination. Let him understand just how big the gap is between an N-level and talents like us. When is the entrance examination? Shall we go and take care of him? The tree hole of Liangzhou University was rife with discrimination against Xiang Beifei, the top original score. It seemed that many were inquiring about the time of the assessment, preparing to watch the event and planning to show Xiang Beifei who's boss. Forums like Treehole exist in many universities, where many students like to post anonymously, complaining about why the Mediterranean professor insists on reading PPTs from his desk, mocking the water meter in the dorm showers that seems to measure the flow of the Huangguoshu waterfall, wondering why the cafeteria ladies' shaky hands haven't gotten better yet. But these past 2 days, the tree hole of Liangzhou University was almost exclusively discussing Xiang Beifei, with countless people rejecting him, the top scorer of the original scores. Even though their own college entrance exam results weren't as high as Xiang Beifei's, every student at Liangzhou University is prouder of their superior talent than his. Things have gotten troublesome now. You haven't even started school yet, and you're already ostracized by the students of Liangzhou University like this, said Lu Hong, frowning deeply. Is that so? Having read these anonymous posts, Xiang Beifei casually handed the cell phone back to Lu Jiwei. What's with that reaction? You may not realize the seriousness of the issue. Even if you get into Liangzhou University like this, you're sure to become a target, Lu Jiwei said seriously. So what? Xiang Beifei placed the towel aside, unconcerned. I graduated from Liangzhou University myself, Lu Hong said. The waters are deep inside elite universities, and they are gathering places for geniuses. Top scorers from all over the country are there, and SR levels are common. These people are smart, but in some ways. Discover more stories at mvlenovelbin.net. He hesitated. Some of the top talents strive for perfection. To become the best, they will stoop to any level. You could say they are exquisite egoists, with high IQs, worldly savvy, good at using rules for their purposes, forming cliques, ostracizing others. All kinds of strange things can happen. Let them come. Xiang Beifei showed no concern and simply turned to walk toward the door. So-called elites, they only dare to say these things anonymously online. Who knows what they're really like in person? Anyway, things had escalated to this point. There wasn't much he could say. If they didn't bother him, all would be well. If they dared to come looking for trouble. Come one. Settle one. Come two. Settle a pair. Watching Xiang Beifei walk away, Lu Hong and his daughter, Lu Jiwei, exchanged glances, at a loss for words. Dad, Lu Jiwei looked uncertainly at the already departed Xiang Beifei. You need to talk to him, he's not listening at all. Lu Hong, thinking of Xiang Beifei's terrifying talent, smiled wryly. Perhaps we are worrying unnecessarily. Lu Jiwei said urgently. Dad, how is that worrying unnecessarily? Don't you know how terrifying those real SR monsters at Liangzhou University can be? People like Qin Yi who are S-level are nothing. Beifei, being so honest and still not realizing the seriousness of the situation, will suffer a lot. No need to panic. Those SR monsters at Liangzhou University may be terrifying, but Lu Hong picked up his coat, a slight smile on his lips. They might encounter someone even more terrifying. What do you mean? The person who should be worried is not Beifei. Xiang Beifei returned home and took care of his own matters. Today, during his spar with Lu Hong, he found many areas for improvement. He felt he could do even better. In Lu Hong's view, Xiang Beifei was being a bit too hard on himself. He had managed to hold his own, relying solely on his mid-phase qi-controlling cultivation, against Lu Hong whose cultivation was suppressed to late-phase qi-controlling. Initially, Lu Hong was entirely suppressed by him in the fight, and even later on, he only managed to gain a slight upper hand by leveraging the strengths he learned from Rapid Flame. Lu Hong admitted to himself that he couldn't use late-phase qi-controlling cultivation to defeat Xiang Beifei. If it were any other late-phase qi-controlling cultivator facing Xiang Beifei's storm-like Rapid Flame punches, they would probably collapse directly. But Xiang Beifei's true opponents were not people like Lu Hong. Even if he could hold his own against those at late-phase qi-controlling, he would not be satisfied with just that. In this world, no matter what others said, the only way for him to reign supreme was to constantly become stronger. The path of the strong was never smooth. After returning home, Xiang Beifei took a bath and then practiced the Chaos Yin-Yang formula before going to bed. The next morning, Xiang Qingde went to work while Xiang Beifei was still cultivating. But around 10 in the morning, someone knocked on the door. Xiang Beifei got up to answer it, and upon opening the door, he was greeted by a scholarly-looking middle-aged man. The man was dressed in a well-fitted suit, wore glasses, had meticulously combed hair, and his expression was gentle and refined. Hello! The man gave Xiang Beifei a warm smile. I am a teacher from the admissions office of Liangzhou University. May I know if you are Xiang Beifei? I am. Xiang Beifei looked at the man before him, whose system read, Host, Yi Changfeng, SR level, Supremacy of 10,000 Swords System, Realm. When Xiang Beifei saw the man's system interface, he furrowed his brow. SR level. This was his first time encountering an SR level talent awakener, and not only that, but the man's system was also very decisive and domineering. This was a martial artist. Not only that, but the man's cultivation level was not displayed, which meant that this person's cultivation was above the meridian opening phase, at the very least in the god refining phase. So strong. Xiang Beifei became vigilant. An SR level with immeasurable cultivation, a teacher from the admissions office of Liangzhou University. Could he be that powerful? My name is Yi Changfeng. You can call me Mr. Yi. Yi Changfeng smiled, extending his hand towards Xiang Beifei. Hello. Xiang Beifei looked at Yi Changfeng calmly, and extended his hand to shake Ye's without feeling inferior or arrogant. Yi Changfeng was slightly surprised when he saw how calm Xiang Beifei was speaking. He had met many students with exceptional talent, some of whom were top-notch SR-level students, but they would all become somewhat nervous and even hastily put on a smile to welcome him when they heard he was a teacher from Liangzhou University's admissions office. After all, Liangzhou University was a prestigious institution, and being a teacher there demanded respect from everyone. Even awakeners who had not yet come into their own would be utterly respectful when facing a university teacher. But Xiang Beifei's attitude was very composed, as if greeting just an ordinary person, showing no signs of excitement or tension. Discover stories with mvlenovelbin.net. Very calm indeed. Yi Changfeng couldn't help but take another look at Xiang Beifei. Please come in. Xiang Beifei stepped aside to let Yi Changfeng enter. As Yi Changfeng stepped inside, he surveyed the clean and tidy room and then said with a smile, "No smell of medicine. No coughing, very clean. Enough to lay one's foot down." Xiang Beifei knew what he was referring to. Yu Lei's article had put Liangzhou University on the hot search, making it common knowledge. The article depicted various fabricated miseries of Xiang Beifei's home life, which Yi Changfeng was certainly aware of. Seeing is believing, isn't it? Xiang Beifei said plainly. Yi Changfeng's eyes flickered slightly, and after a moment, he adjusted his glasses, still maintaining a gentle smile. "You're right. Please have a seat. I'll go pour you a glass of water." Xiang Beifei turned and walked into the kitchen, took a disposable paper cup from the cabinet, filled it with hot water, and handed it to Yi Changfeng. "Thank you." Yi Changfeng took the cup politely, his movements genteel and restrained, without any arrogance typical of an SR expert, appearing as an amiable, ordinary person. Xiang Beifei sat across from Yi Changfeng and said, "We don't often have guests at home, so there isn't much to offer. Please excuse me." "That's all right. Simplicity is good." Yi Changfeng didn't mind, his gaze casually sweeping around the living room. He asked, "Is your grandfather not home?" "He's not," Xiang Beifei replied, and after a pause, he added, "I wasn't aware that Liangzhou University's admissions would make a house call. For an average S-level student, I indeed would not visit, but I do make personal visits to some special students, such as awakeners who are coveted by the other 8 elite universities or—" Yi Changfeng paused here, sizing up Xiang Beifei again before continuing with a meaningful smile. "A top scorer in the college entrance exam. Like you." "I am not the top scorer," Xiang Beifei responded. "In my eyes, first place in raw scores is the top scorer. I don't like the bonus points system." Yi Changfeng took a sip of water, then placed his cup on the table and said, "The S-level system is already more powerful than others. Adding points on top of it seems excessive. What do you think?" He looked at Xiang Beifei, very interested in the young man's opinion. "What I think isn't important. The system won't change because of me," Xiang Beifei responded. "If you think it's excessive, you should try to bring about a change." Yi Changfeng was taken aback. Xiang Beifei spoke frankly. He was just a student for now, not powerful enough to break the rules set by others, lacking the ability to change them. However, as an SR-level professor at Liangzhou University, Yi Changfeng had influence and authority. If anyone should attempt to change something, it ought to be someone influential like him. Yi Changfeng laughed. "You're right. Perhaps I should try to bring up my concerns with those people above." He paused before shaking his head. "But the chances are slim. They are quite stubborn." Xiang Beifei gazed at Yi Changfeng, lost in thought. He wasn't pondering who the so-called "those people above" might be. He was considering what that sword by Yi Changfeng's side was. From the moment Yi Changfeng had entered the room, a long sword appeared floating beside him. 3 feet in length, the blade shimmered with a cold light, thick with a strong presence. As if a majestic azure dragon coiled around it, the sword was extremely imposing. It clearly came from the system, and normally it should be invisible to others, or perhaps Yi Changfeng thought his sword was invisible to Xiang Beifei. But Xiang Beifei could see the sword, and not just that. The sword continuously emitted a strange fluctuation as if a pair of eerie eyes were shooting out from the dragon's shadow, falling upon him as though trying to see right through him. Xiao He was making faces on Xiang Beifei's shoulder, and if it weren't for his restraint, Xiao He would probably have grabbed the sword to rough it up already. Seeing that Xiang Beifei hadn't spoken, Yi Changfeng took it upon himself to speak again. I came here today because you applied to Liangzhou University. Your scores are not a problem. But rules are rules. You need to go through our enrollment assessment. This is the notice for the assessment, with the time and location inside. He pulled a white envelope from his suit pocket and handed it to Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei looked at the envelope. It only had a few simple words on it. Xiang Beifei, personal, then stamped with the postmark of Liangzhou University. Thank you. Xiang Beifei took the letter and set it aside. Aren't you going to open it? Yi Changfeng asked. Do you want me to open it? That depends on you. Then I'm not in a rush, Xiang Beifei replied. Yi Changfeng looked at Xiang Beifei with increasing astonishment and asked, I thought you'd want to know the exact time. If it's not today, there's no rush, Xiang Beifei replied. Yi Changfeng laughed, nodding slightly. You really are extraordinary. I was thinking, the son of Xiang Tianqing wouldn't be simple no matter what. Xiang Beifei furrowed his brows. You're right. I knew your father, and when I found out you were Xiang Tianqing's son, I specifically took on this task to see what kind of person you really are, Yi Changfeng said. Xiang Beifei nodded thoughtfully. Yi Changfeng seemed to be waiting for Xiang Beifei to ask something, but Xiang Beifei appeared to have no intention of asking much. After a long pause, it was Yi Changfeng who could not help himself and said, Won't you ask me about your father's matters? Will you tell me what mission my father was on? Yi Changfeng smiled and then shook his head. Then why should I ask? Xiang Beifei said. Yi Changfeng looked slightly taken aback and said, I thought you would always be a bit curious. I don't like to ask pointless questions, Xiang Beifei replied. Yi Changfeng's gaze on Xiang Beifei grew even more peculiar. He hadn't expected such an answer from him. This is interesting. He then said, What about the enrollment assessment? Don't you have anything you want to ask me? Xiang Beifei didn't speak, just looked at Yi Changfeng strangely. Yi Changfeng realized something, shook his head slightly, and smiled. In your eyes, that's also a pointless question, right? What the assessment entailed was seldom revealed by Liangzhou University. It was usually decided on the spot, and for 10 years no N-level student had gained admission to Liangzhou University. Given the high bar set by the university, it was impossible that they would disclose the content of the assessment to Xiang Beifei in advance. In other words, even if Xiang Beifei asked anything, Yi Changfeng wouldn't say much. Find your next adventure on m_VL_enovelbin.net. Xiang Beifei simply continued to look at Yi Changfeng. His words were always brief, avoiding any superfluous talk. Yi Changfeng noticed that the youth was guarded in front of him, remaining calm and collected, speaking in his own way without saying anything extra just because he was a teacher at Liangzhou University. This made things very difficult. He couldn't help but glance at the long sword by his side. The sword light briefly shimmered. No progress at all? After pondering for a moment, Yi Changfeng spoke again. Regardless, I still need to clarify the situation at Liangzhou University for you, so you'll be mentally prepared for the admission assessment. Please do, Xiang Beifei said. Yi Changfeng paused, then continued, In the history of Liangzhou University, only 3 N-level awakeners have passed the admission assessment, and the last time we admitted an N-level student was 10 years ago. 3 of them, not bad at all. It's not like that. Yi Changfeng shook his head and added, The highest official of Liangzhou, Xiang Tianqing, was the first one. But in fact, back then Liangzhou University did not admit N-level students, and for him it was only an exception. Is that so? Xiang Beifei's reply was short. Yi Changfeng watched Xiang Beifei impartially, trying to see what he might ask. But Xiang Beifei's expression was calm and steady. The sword beside him remained still. It couldn't discern anything about Xiang Beifei's situation. After some thought, Yi Changfeng decided to say a bit more. The more he spoke, the more likely Xiang Beifei might react, allowing Yi to observe something. When Xiang Tianqing was younger, he saved one of our university's teachers. That year, a beast tide erupted, breaching the outer defenses of the Jojo Alliance, and our university's teachers were ordered to resist the desolate beasts. However, one teacher was injured by a powerful desolate beast. He managed to escape back but went unnoticed by everyone preoccupied with the desolate beasts. It was Shang Tianxiong who rescued him in time. After the beast tide was repelled and the alliance stabilized, the Liangzhou University teacher felt indebted to Shang Tianxiong. So, he lobbied the university's high-level officials and secured him an opportunity to undergo the entrance assessment. Yet, since Liangzhou University is an elite institution that normally only admits R-level awakeners, letting him in through the back door would be unfair to other N-level awakeners and could negatively impact the school. Consequently, a rule was amended, setting the minimum college entrance examination score for N-level students at 680 points. Anyone scoring 680 could apply for Liangzhou University and participate in the entrance assessment. Yi Changfeng stared at Xiang Beifei. After all, Xiang Beifei's score this year was 732 points, far exceeding the 680-point threshold. Even among the many S-level awakeners in Jojo with the scholar system, none had a higher score than him. In Yi Changfeng's opinion, it was quite impressive. This rule was modified for Shang Tianxiong, but he still had to follow it to get into Liangzhou University. He spent 3 full years repeating his studies to achieve the 680 points, and he didn't pass the first assessment. After another year, he scored 689 points, and with a year of guidance from that teacher, he finally passed the entrance assessment. Yi Changfeng detailed Shang Tianxiong's situation to Xiang Beifei, also wanting to convey that even for someone like Shang Tianxiong, gaining admission to Liangzhou University took immense effort and assistance from influential figures. His fingers tapped gently on his thigh, waiting for Xiang Beifei to ask a question. Xiang Beifei remained in a thoughtful pose, like an attentive listener, showing no stance. He really knows how to keep his cool. Yi Changfeng thought to himself and continued speaking. After Shang Tianxiong, an N-level student, got into Liangzhou University, his success inspired many N-level awakeners. Many N-level students took him as a model, working hard to improve their academics. Quite a few scored the required 680 points, but without exception, they all failed the entrance assessment, just like Shang Tianxiong in his first year. Later, after Shang Tianxiong graduated, he stayed on as a university teacher. A few other N-level awakeners then sought to attend Liangzhou University, and Shang Tianxiong was in charge of their entrance assessments. Meaning, the second and third N-level awakeners who entered Liangzhou University did so because Shang Tianxiong turned a blind eye. However, both of these individuals were flashes in the pan. One of the N-level awakeners couldn't keep up with the pace of Liangzhou University's curriculum and dropped out after 2 years of study. This incident had some repercussions at the time and served as a warning to those N-level candidates who wished to try for Liangzhou University. Yi Changfeng looked meaningfully at Xiang Beifei. "So, are you here to discourage me today?" Xiang Beifei asked. He finally reacted. "It wasn't easy to get you to talk more." Yi Changfeng smiled and said, "Not at all. I know your father, and therefore, I have expectations for you as well. I just want to inform you that Shang Tianxiong had the help of influential people, and the other 2 N-level awakeners had the assistance of Shang Tianxiong. So in the school history of Liangzhou University, we've admitted 3 N-level awakeners. But 10 years ago, Shang Tianxiong no longer served as a teacher at Liangzhou University and opted to work in the Alliance instead. Since then, he hasn't been in charge of Liangzhou University's entrance assessments, and in the past 10 years, not a single N-level awakener has made it through." Xiang Beifei nodded thoughtfully. In the school history of Liangzhou University, the 3 N-level awakeners could more or less be said to have entered the university through the assistance of influential figures. At least Shang Tianxiong had the capability. He took advantage of his opportunity and made tremendous achievements through his own efforts. But the next 2 N-level awakeners faced entrance assessments overseen by Shang Tianxiong himself. Being N-level as well, Shang Tianxiong certainly empathized with them and likely lowered the difficulty of the assessments. However, Xiang Beifei's current situation was that he not only lacked help, But the person responsible for his assessment was also an old adversary of his father. The entrance assessments for the other 3 N-level awakeners had reduced difficulty, but his was made more challenging. Yi Changfeng waited for Xiang Beifei to inquire, even thinking to himself that Xiang Beifei might try to ingratiate himself. After all, he knew Xiang Tianxing, and any person with such a connection would likely seize the opportunity to say a few kind words, hoping that he too could become their benefactor. But Xiang Beifei didn't do so. Rather, he continued watching Yi Changfeng politely, neither fawning nor resisting. The room fell silent for a long time, until finally, it was Yi Changfeng who lost his patience. "Aren't you going to say something?" he asked. "What does Mr. Yi expect me to say?" Xiang Beifei asked, puzzled. Yi Changfeng was momentarily at a loss for words. "You're not even going to offer a couple of flattering remarks?" He found communicating with Xiang Beifei extremely difficult. Never had an N-level student spoken to him like this before. The students at Liangzhou University all held him in awe, even tried to curry favor with him, the reason being simple. They all knew he was an SR Awakener. "But do I have to tell you to your face that I'm an SR for you to fawn over me? At the very least, I'm still a teacher. You should have some reaction. Is this how you normally talk to people?" Yi Changfeng couldn't help but ask. "I talk more with people I'm familiar with," Xiang Beifei replied earnestly. Yi Changfeng didn't know how to respond to that for a moment. The atmosphere fell silent once again. Yi Changfeng probably realized there was no need to stay any longer. So he stood up and said, "All right, then I won't disturb you any further. Everything you need to pay attention to is in the envelope. I should take my leave." Yi Changfeng walked towards the door, and Xiang Beifei followed him there. Just as he was stepping out the door, Yi Changfeng seemed to remember something and added, "Even though I know your father, the assessment isn't up to me, and I don't know what the specific assessment will entail, nor can I assist you. Everyone is watching you, and bending the rules is not an option. Remember that." Xiang Beifei looked at Yi Changfeng with a strange expression. Yi Changfeng, a dignified SR-level teacher at Liangzhou University, felt somewhat uneasy under the gaze of a teenager. After a long moment, as if he had understood, he said helplessly, "Oh right, you knew these things earlier. It was I who was vague." He looked meaningfully at Xiang Beifei once more before saying, "Farewell. Take care, Mr. Yi," Xiang Beifei said. Xiang Beifei sat on the sofa, looking at the envelope, deep in thought. He was not an SR Awakener that all 9 elite universities were scrambling to recruit. He was just an N-level Awakener. The teacher from Liangzhou University came to see him merely to find out what kind of person he really was, not to recruit him to Liangzhou University. If he were an SR Awakener, perhaps they would have asked him a few more questions because he would have had the right to choose, coveted by the 9 elite universities. But he wasn't, he had no choice, and asking too many questions would only expose himself to the other party. It wasn't wise to let the other party know everything about him before even starting at the university. He didn't know this person, and even knowing his father proved nothing. Xiang Tianxing, as an SR-level Awakener, was known by many, but not everyone who knew Xiang Tianxing was his friend. Especially since he couldn't see Yi Changfeng's system tasks. He couldn't judge from the system tasks what kind of person Yi Changfeng really was. So he couldn't just trust him blindly. Woof, woof, woof. Xiaohei was at the table, waving its little paws, humming and gesturing. "I know you're impressive, but snatching that sword isn't necessarily a good thing," Xiang Beifei said. "Woof!" Xiaohei proudly raised its head. "There are plenty who want to observe us. One sword doesn't make a difference." Xiang Beifei knew that the sword was observing him, or rather, scanning him. But he didn't give it any chance, speaking only what needed to be said, and refraining from uttering anything superfluous. He picked up the envelope from the table, tore open the seal, and took out a red piece of letter paper. A circle of ripples hung around this paper, and as soon as the envelope was torn, the ripples swiftly settled on Xiang Beifei, seemingly confirming his identity. His identity was all recorded in the educational system, and Liangzhou University naturally knew how to identify him. After the confirmation of his identity, the restrictions on the letter paper disappeared, and then slowly, a line of words emerged on the paper. Xiang Beifei, student, you have applied and passed our university's admission threshold, and we now invite you to participate in our entrance assessment. Assessment date, August 5th at 9 a.m. Location, Liangzhou University Training Ground No. 1. Assessment content, confidential. Cautions. No accompaniment by relatives or friends is permitted. Please come alone. Good luck. Liangzhou University Academic Affairs Office. Yuqi Shen. A simple letter with hardly anything but the time and place, no extra explanation, nothing special. That's the day after tomorrow. Xiang Beifei stored the letter away and considered whether to inform his grandfather. After a brief moment, he decided against it, reasoning that there was no need to worry his grandfather since he couldn't accompany him anyway. Now, even if it's a dragon's den and a tiger's lair, I must venture forth, Xiang Beifei said, patting Xiaohe on the head. Yi Changfeng stood in the corridor, turning his head to look at his long sword. Long Yuan, do you see anything? He inquired. The Long Yuan sword next to him emitted strange fluctuations, and a dragon shadow slowly appeared on the blade's edge, coiling around the sword, lifting its proud head and replied in a muffled voice. It's peculiar. I seem to see right through him, yet at the same time, I cannot pierce his veil. You can see through him, yet you can't? Yi Changfeng expressed his surprise. Net. If he would only speak more or do something else, perhaps I would discern something. But he reveals nothing, the Long Yuan sword declared. Yi Changfeng shook his head with a smile. He doesn't seem like someone who enjoys talking. The Long Yuan sword, in contemplation, eventually said, or perhaps he does not wish to speak in front of you? Yi Changfeng, slightly startled, he faintly grasped something. I think he doesn't trust me. Yi Changfeng removed his glasses, took out a cloth from his pocket, and began to clean them as he started to laugh. It's correct for him not to trust me. Blindly trusting a stranger is not the vigilance a pioneer should possess. If he trusted me or tried to ingratiate himself with me like the other students, flattering and fawning, I would instead be disappointed in him. He put the cloth back into his pocket and donned his glasses again. In his eyes twinkled an odd blue light. I am quite eager to see how he will deal with those troublesome geniuses in the academy, he remarked. You seem convinced that he will pass the assessment? The Long Yuan sword asked. He is the son of Xiang Tianxing, but Yuqi Shen is in charge of the assessments. You know how much he detested Xiang Tianxing in the past. Do you think he would let the son of Xiang Tianxing pass easily? Scoffed the Long Yuan sword. Yi Changfeng adjusted his clothes, seemingly undisturbed by Long Yuan's words. He will pass, he declared. You have that much confidence in him? I can tell. You just said you couldn't tell anything. It's precisely because I couldn't tell anything that I can tell. Yi Changfeng stepped forward, and beneath his feet, ripples appeared as if he was stepping on the air, creating waves. Then, space seemed to ripple slightly, and in the blink of an eye he had vanished. A piece of news suddenly spread silently within Liangzhou University. August 5th. The day of the entrance examination for this year's top original score candidate, Xiang Beifei. The gossip tree at Liangzhou University exploded once more. He's coming, he's here. Let's form a group to show him who's boss. Who's joining? I happen to be free that day, count me in. Damn it, the school just started summer break, and I've gone home. I can't come back that day. Who can take over and show him who's boss for me Onaji? I'm actually on summer internship. I'll be there to show him what elite really means. Right. I can't wait to see how he makes a fool of himself. What an overconfident fool. Did you hear that this time Yuqi, the old demon, is in charge of his entrance assessment? Ha ha ha. He's doomed. Yuqi, the old demon, hates three types of people. Those whose talents are better than his, those whose talents are the same as his, and those whose talents are worse than his. Anyone who meets Yuqi, the old demon, is bound to get skinned, let alone a piece of N-level trash. You guys are being a bit too harsh. The guy just awakened his system 2 months ago and hasn't even reached the chi controlling stage. Why so vindictive? Not harsh at all. He should have known the consequences when he conspired with journalists to suppress us with public opinion. Because of the hype created by Yulei, Xiang Beifei had become notoriously well known in Liangzhou University, and many students couldn't wait to meet this top originally scored candidate. The posts in the gossip tree were hostile towards Xiang Beifei. Even the occasional rational voices defending him were quickly drowned out by other mocking posts. August 5th. Early in the morning, Xiang Beifei took a ride to Liangzhou University. He arrived at Liangzhou University by 7:30. I misjudged the time. He had never been to Liangzhou University before and was unsure about the travel time, so he left home just after 6. Liangzhou University was not particularly far from where he lived. About an hour's drive, possibly less if he drove himself, which was likely why Lu Jiwei would rush to the law enforcement team every day after school. But being early was better than being late. He stood at the school gate, looking at Liangzhou University in front of him. The grand and imposing school gate, made of marble, bore many special stone patterns that twinkled mysteriously under the sunlight. These stone patterns appeared to be the texture of waves at first glance. However, each wave was intricately ordered and reflected off each other, extending up to the grand Liangzhou University inscription. Is this a formation? Xiang Beifei stood at the gate, staring at the huge Liangzhou University sign, pondering. He could see the various system-made objects. System items were actually a form of spiritual power crystal, just manifested in different ways. That meant he could also see any form of energy condensed by spiritual power, including formation patterns and charm patterns. The stone patterns on this gate were protected by a special power, seemingly linked to every tree and every stone in the school, eventually converging on a statue not far away. The statue was of an elder, dressed in ancient attire, holding a walking stick, with kind and benevolent eyes and a pair of wise eyes looking towards the school gate. As Xiang Beifei was examining the statue, he realized that it seemed to be examining him as well. The university is indeed not to be underestimated. Xiang Beifei knew who the statue represented. It was said to be the school's founder from 1,000 years ago, the Venerable Mu Tianhe. He shifted his gaze from the statue of the school's founder, but the feeling of being scrutinized by the statue did not go away. Where has Lu Jiwei gone? She promised to wait for me here. Xiang Beifei looked around, searching for Lu Jiwei's figure. When Lu Jiwei had her internship with the enforcement team, she would stay at home, but if there were academic classes, she would stay at the university. She had called him last night, saying she would wait for him at the school entrance in the morning and take him to training site 1. Xiang Beifei was not familiar with Liangzhou University and thought that this arrangement would save him from taking unnecessary detours. So he agreed. He made a call to Lu Jiwei, and the phone was quickly picked up. Ah, Beifei, this morning my mentor called me to handle some matters. I am now at the lab. Why don't you come here and then I can take you directly to training room 1, sparing me the extra trip to the school gate, said Lu Jiwei. Where are you? Dashang Building, 13th floor. Walk inside for about 5 minutes. The building's name is displayed prominently on the outside, said Lu Jiwei. Xiang Beifei hung up the phone, walked through the school gate and looked around, then slightly furrowed his brow. 13 floors? He looked around. None of the buildings in the school were more than 6 stories high. Where could there be a 13-story building? Xiang Beifei soon remembered that the architecture at Liangzhou University was quite unique. In a world rife with desolate beasts, which sometimes attacked human settlements, buildings were built low to the ground, with additional structures underground. In such attacks, people could take refuge underground, and even if the upper levels were destroyed, the underground sections generally remained intact, facilitating rebuilding. The course Introduction to Defense of Juzhou had mentioned that in over 3,000 years, humanity had suffered several hundred beast tides, each posing an almost catastrophic threat. Desolate beasts from outside Juzhou could easily breach outer defenses and cause widespread destruction. Hence, many buildings were constructed underground. Places like Liangzhou University, being one of the 9 elite universities, naturally needed to protect all cultural heritage and legacies and be safeguarded against destruction during beast tides. But Xiang Beifei still could not pinpoint the Dasheng building, afraid to waste time by going wrong. He spotted a security booth not far away and walked towards it. It was just past 7 in the morning and summer break. There were some students who stayed on campus, but not many. Xiang Beifei entered the security booth where there was a lounge chair outside, and an old man dressed in a security uniform was sitting on it, leisurely cracking sunflower seeds. Xiang Beifei caught a glimpse of the man's system interface and was slightly surprised. Host: Luo Yunxian. SR grade. Leisure system. Level: late stage of Meridian Opening.net. A gatekeeper old man, at the late stage of Meridian Opening? And an SR grade? Is Liangzhou University really such a hidden dragon and crouching tiger? To date, aside from Yi Changfeng, the two most powerful people he had met were President Li Nanxing and Chang Shan from the enforcement team, both in the late stage of Meridian Opening and greatly respected figures. Unexpectedly, Xiang Beifei found that even the security guard at Liangzhou University was at the late stage of Meridian Opening. When even Lu Hong, who was at the early stage of Meridian Opening, could become the captain of the enforcement team in the Western District, this old man with such high cultivation did security work. Why not choose a better profession? However, one thing was strange. Why, being of the same SR grade talent, was Yi Changfeng above the Meridian Opening, while the security guard was only in the late stage of Meridian Opening? Xiang Beifei was puzzled. He looked towards the old security guard's system interface. Leisure System Introduction. Do some leisurely activities every day to make yourself stronger. Daily Task 1. Count 300 students passing through the school gate. Leisure value plus 50. Daily Task 2. Eat 300 sunflower seeds. Leisure value plus 50. .net. Daily Task 3. Nap for an hour. Leisure value plus 50. Daily Task 4. Chat with someone for an hour. Leisure value plus 50. Other optional tasks. Elective 1. Watch TV dramas for an hour. 2. Daydream for an hour. 3. Listen to opera for an hour. 4. Play games for an hour. 5. Listen to birds chirping for an hour. 6. Go for a walk for an hour. 7. Dance in the square for an hour. 8. Watch news for an hour. Please ensure that the host maintains a happy body and mind, acts leisurely, and lives a joyful life. Do not be impatient, and don't let yourself be too busy or too tired, as working yourself to exhaustion is not good for you. Remember, engaging in more leisurely activities will make you stronger. The string of optional leisure tasks left Xiang Beifei dumbfounded. Elective tasks meant these tasks could be done or not, depending on his mood. He had seen various bizarre systems before: the eating dirt system, hair loss system, bootlicker system, backup snatch system. But these systems were just a speck of dust in front of this old man's leisure system. Just by cracking sunflower seeds and counting students walking by, he could complete all his tasks, and even becoming stronger by watching a TV show or taking a walk. The scariest part was that this old man raised his cultivation to the late stage of Meridian Opening just by lazing around. It shows how important it is to awaken a good system. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but sigh. While others were tirelessly working on their system tasks, this old man just lay in a lounge chair, squinted his eyes, napped like a salted fish. Then you look back, and he's even stronger than you. Comparing yourself with others can be maddening. Honestly, Xiang Beifei really wanted this leisure system for himself. Who doesn't like to relax? He finally understood why this old man, despite his high cultivation, was content with just guarding the school gate. Why strive for more when you have such a system? Didn't you see what the system said? Engaging in more leisurely activities will make you stronger. 75. Elder Luo casually spit out a sunflower seed husk and counted Xiang Beifei as he approached. "Hello!" Xiang Beifei greeted politely. "Freshman." Elder Luo cracked another sunflower seed as the system showed he had now eaten 95 seeds. "Is it that obvious?" Xiang Beifei asked. "No upperclassman would greet me so politely." Elder Luo stretched his back, and Xiang Beifei noticed that Elder Luo had chosen the chat for an hour daily task, intending to casually include chatting with Xiang Beifei as part of this task. Xiang Beifei nodded. Yes. I wanted to ask how to get to the Dasheng building? Elder Luo scrutinized Xiang Beifei and, stroking his chin, said, I seem to have an impression of you. Really? Xiang Beifei was puzzled. Oh right. You are the top scorer of the initial assessment. Elder Luo sat up from the lounge chair, his lean face lighting up with excitement. How could you tell? Your photograph is in the Liangzhou University Gossip Forum. It's there in your college entrance data. Elder Luo seemed invigorated, wiped his greasy hands on the lounge chair, then took out an old model large-screen cell phone, made a few swipes, and pulled up the photograph of Xiang Beifei applying for universities. Not just that, but also various photographs from Luhe High School activities. Graduation photos, athletic meets, student clubs, and other group photos. Some didn't even have Xiang Beifei as the main subject, he was just incidentally in the background. Yet those backgrounds were meticulously cropped out. It was probably some of his classmates who posted it on social media. In this era, there's no such thing as online privacy. If you want to find something, it's easy to get your hands on it. Now the whole school knows you. You're a celebrity, Elder Luo said happily, like an old man who loves gossiping about others. Wrong, he was here to gossip about the top scorer exactly. Xiang Beifei saw that he had chosen the Gather Gossip daily task. Fine then. Xiang Beifei was mentally prepared for this, and he could accept that everyone knew him. Let's go. I'll take you to the assessment site. Elder Luo stood up, having chosen the stroll quest. He enthusiastically led Xiang Beifei to their destination, managing to do the casual chat quest, the gather gossip quest, and the stroll quest all at once. A real bargain. Xiang Beifei didn't refuse. Although the man was doing it for the tasks, he was also helping him find his way. As long as he could see the other system tasks, Xiang Beifei could roughly determine if the other had any malice. By the way, I need to stop by Dasheng building first. I have a friend waiting for me there, Xiang Beifei added. Sure thing, sure thing. Elder Luo, while munching on sunflower seeds, looked at Xiang Beifei and offered him some seeds, asking, Want some? No thanks. Do you realize the situation you're in now? Many students at Liangzhou University have a bone to pick with you. No, they're openly hostile. You better be careful. Everyone here is a genius, and no one yields to anyone. They will cause trouble for you. Elder Luo chuckled. Is that so? Xiang Beifei nodded. You don't seem to care much? Elder Luo watched Xiang Beifei with enthusiasm. What else? Do you have any good suggestions? Xiang Beifei asked. Beat them up. What kind of question is that? If they don't comply, just beat them into submission. Haha. Elder Luo burst into laughter and said, The martial arts college and the liberal arts college at a prestigious university are different. People in the liberal arts college reason things out, valuing both EQ and IQ, and don't have much aggression. But with the geniuses from the martial arts college, the best method isn't to reason with them, but to talk with your fists. In the liberal arts college, students usually don't get involved in fights. Their awakened systems are used to enhance their IQ and EQ, along with various professional skills. People with high EQ and IQ understanding the ways of the world, even if they dislike someone, won't blatantly say it. However, students of the martial arts college focus on cultivation and combat. Their awakened systems are for enhancing their fighting ability. Power is everything in their eyes. Academic performance isn't that important to them. At admission, they have lower score requirements than the liberal arts college. 500 points for an S grade is enough. In short, they are brutes. Bruteness solves everything. Xiang Beifei asked doubtfully, Aren't you a security guard? Why are you encouraging students to fight? I enjoy a good brawl. Watching geniuses fight is the most interesting. As long as they don't kill anyone, small fights are allowed in the martial arts college. Elder Luo said cheerfully, tossing his sunflower seed shells into a trash can as they passed by, then asked, But I'm curious, are you confident you can take them? Those guys are at the chi controlling stage. Have you reached the chi controlling stage yet? Xiang Beifei just smiled and didn't say much. But Elder Luo kept on imparting his insights non-stop. Even if you've been admitted to Liangzhou University, you won't be left in peace. People will keep troubling you. The best way to shut them up is to show them how hard your fists are. He rambled all the way from the school gate to Dasheng building. Xiang Beifei let him ramble on without interrupting, and although the old man was verbose, much of what he said made sense. Xiang Beifei made a phone call to Lu Jiwei, who replied, "Be right there." The elevator doors opened, but it wasn't Lu Jiwei. Instead, two guys appeared, seemingly talking about something. "Hurry up, we need to go to Training Area 1 and show that freshman what we're made of. It's all the instructor's fault for making us do experiments early in the morning. We should still make it, right? It's only 8 now if we're lucky." The speaking guy casually looked up and glanced at Xiang Beifei. He initially looked away, but after walking a few steps, something occurred to him. He picked up his phone to check something, then stopped, turned around, and stared at Xiang Beifei. "Wait a minute, you're that Xiang Beifei?" The guy suddenly furrowed his brows. "Oh, trouble has arrived." Elder Luo stepped aside, full of excitement, activating his Thrive in Chaos mission, and feeling extremely thrilled. One of the students in a shirt approached Xiang Beifei, and after confirming his identity, a certain look appeared in his eyes. "You are the N-grade freshman who wants to get into our school through public opinion pressure?" Xiang Beifei calmly looked at the male student. "Host, Wang Zhe. Rank R, Plunder from Martial World System. Realm mid-stage of Qi controlling." The plunder from Martial World System probably meant hopping into various martial arts dramas or novels to play out scenarios, completing certain tasks in each story and receiving rewards if the conditions were met. Xiang Beifei noticed his most recently completed mission. You killed Xiaofeng and became the leader of the Beggars sect, plundering Xiaofeng's 18 palms of Descending Dragon. Every time Wang Zhe entered a story, he had to kill a character from the plot and then plunder their martial arts. The characters he killed at first were not too strong, such as the Southern Sea Crocodile God and Yi Ernyang. The mission required him to duel the targets face-to-face and to kill them using brute force, so he couldn't resort to other strategies and wasn't even allowed to use basic spiritual power. Once he entered a story, he was no longer at the mid-stage of Qi controlling but a fighter normally practicing inner strength. To pass through the stories, one must rely on genuine martial arts, then convert the plundered skills to the system world, and combine them with spiritual power to exert greater power in the system world. In order to obtain the 18 palms of Descending Dragon, he had to kill 42 characters in demigods and semi-devils, plundering their martial arts, before he could barely kill Xiaofeng by leveraging the martial prowess of many others. Took him a year to complete this task. The 18 palms of Descending Dragon had become his most relied upon ability. When he executed the 18 palms of Descending Dragon combined with his own spiritual power, the power was extremely formidable. There were scarcely any opponents at the mid-stage of Qi controlling. Wang Zhe's next mission in the system seemed to be to go through Swordsman to kill Ling Huchong. His task list also included killing Yu Buchuan and Invincible East. As to what he would plunder would depend on his fate. Xiang Beifei had a clear understanding of the opponent's plundered abilities. Wang Zhe had just obtained the 18 palms of Descending Dragon and was considered one of the best among those ranked R. He was becoming increasingly proficient in this palm technique and sought someone to test it on. His gaze settled on Xiang Beifei. "Why aren't you speaking?" He looked at Xiang Beifei, stretching his hand to rub his fists. After a while, he smiled again. "I get it. You're scared coming to a place where the elites gather?" The students of martial arts college really were blunt, straightforward, and typically spoke without thinking. Xiang Beifei could accept this situation. "Haha. This place is full of Qi-controlling elites. It's normal for an N-grade awakener like you to be scared. Relying on public opinion online is one thing, but here at the martial arts college, we rely on our fists. Did you think there would be netizens here to speak up for you?" Another male student said. "Host, Song Yuan. Rank R, Divine Sniper System. Realm mid-stage of Qi controlling." This individual had awakened a sniper system, which provided various types of firearms in its interface. To purchase many powerful sniper rifles, he needed to spend system points, which he had to earn by sniping targets, including but not limited to flies, mosquitoes, and so on. The system would create various training simulations for him and even let him go into the wilderness outside of the domain to sniper desolate beasts, or immerse himself in a game, joining in a battle royale. Currently, his most relied upon sniper rifle was a Barrett. Song Yuan's system was not suitable for combat but was better suited for sniping from cover. His close-quarters combat skills were not that formidable, but the lethality of his sniper rifle was also linked to his cultivation. Wang Zhe and Song Yuan both possessed R-grade systems, and in a place like Liangzhou University where elites converged, strictly speaking, their system talents were at the bottom of the heap. It was difficult for them to have an opportunity to shine in front of those with S-grade and SR-grade systems. Now that an N-grade awakener had arrived, whose talent was even worse than theirs, their own sense of superiority with R-grade systems was immediately evident. Inside the tree hollow, the two of them were among the ones who shouted the loudest. Xiang Beifei did not speak and shifted his gaze away from them, still waiting for Lu Jiwei. Seeing themselves being ignored by Xiang Beifei, Wang Zhe and Song Yuan narrowed their eyes. Not speaking doesn't mean everything will be fine. Net. Wang Zhe stared at Xiang Beifei. Let me tell you, Liangzhou University isn't the place for any trash that comes along. If you knew what was good for you, you'd turn around and go back where you came from, otherwise you're going to have a hard time at this elite university. The martial arts college of this elite university isn't all about high scores in cultural subjects. Everyone here is an elite. Think about it, what grade do you think you are? And you even dare to join forces with journalists to pressure our Liangzhou University in an attempt to get in? Your face is quite big, isn't it? Song Yuan remarked. Xiang Beifei still did not speak. Old man Luo nearby kept cracking sunflower seeds, carrying out his join in the fun task. He didn't bother to stop the fight. Squabbles were common at the elite university, and it was fine for him to do something leisurely. Song Yuan suddenly thought of something and said, "Just now, I remember Lu Jiwei seemed to say someone was waiting for her outside and was anxious to come out. It couldn't be him she was looking for, could it?" Wang Zhe feigned a look of realization before saying, "I was wondering why such an N-grade awakener dared to come to Liangzhou University. Turned out he found an S-grade girl to lean on, hiding behind a woman and becoming a kept man. Do you expect to hide behind a girl for all your years at university? Should she protect you at all times? This is interesting. An N-grade trash overestimating his ability at the elite university, muddling through 3 years on the coattails of a woman. How very interesting," Song Yuan sneered. Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment, then turned his head and inquired with Elder Luo, "Are we allowed to fight?" Since he was new here, it was better to clarify the rules, it would be more polite. Elder Luo, munching on sunflower seeds, was happy to hear Xiang Beifei finally speak up. He nodded eagerly. Liangzhou University's rules state that sparring is allowed as long as there is a faculty member or elder present. I'm faculty and I can testify. I can testify. I love testifying for geniuses. He was so excited that he sprayed sunflower seed shells everywhere with his mouth. Attending the martial arts college meant that these students would be trained to resist desolate beasts from the outer domains in the future. If they couldn't fight, what was the point of being here? Hearing Xiang Beifei's words, Wang Zhe laughed. "You want to fight with me? You must not know our strength, huh? Do you think once you get to university you'll get by with just acing exams? Wang Zhe, let me handle this. We don't need you for someone like him. I'm enough." Song Yuan rubbed his palms together and stretched lazily. "Come on. I'll let you make 3 moves first, and then I'll teach you, N-grade awakener, what it truly means to be an elite." Whoosh! Before Song Yuan could finish his sentence, he only felt a blur in front of his eyes as a shadow flashed rapidly past him, bringing a burst of explosive punch wind that slammed into his face. Bang! Song Yuan screamed, his body flying backward and crashing into the wall with a muffled sound, collapsing limply to the ground. "When fighting, don't hold back." Xiang Beifei stood there, saying earnestly. Song Yuan was utterly dumbfounded by Xiang Beifei. Although he was a sniper, not adept at close combat, he still possessed mid-stage chi-controlling strength. As a sniper, he was extremely sensitive to changes in his surroundings, and his reaction capabilities were definitely top-notch. In his view, N-level Xiang Beifei, who had awakened his system 2 months ago, hadn't even reached the chi-controlling stage. He himself, being in the mid-stage of chi-controlling, didn't need to rely on sniping to deal with such a person with just one punch. In fact, it was indeed a matter of one punch. But the one knocked down by that punch wasn't Xiang Beifei, but himself. Wang Zhe was also shocked. Even he didn't know what had happened. He only saw a shadow flash by, and then Song Yuan fell down. He didn't even have the chance to fight back. How on earth did this guy do it? Wang Zhe immediately became alert, slowly waving his hands forward, readying his palms, and fixating on Xiang Beifei. You're just an N-level guy, you couldn't possibly knock down Song Yuan. Whose system item did you use? Lu Jiwei's. .net. Wang Zhe had not seen clearly how fast Xiang Beifei moved. In his mind, it was impossible for an N-level awakener to achieve this, nor could an S-level genius who had just awakened 2 months ago possess mid-stage chi-controlling cultivation. Then the only explanation was that the opponent had used someone else's system for help. Xiang Beifei just seriously stared at Wang Zhe, contemplating and offering no explanation. This made Wang Zhe feel insulted. He coldly shouted, "You've only awakened 2 months ago. Even with someone else's system's help, you can only reach mid-stage chi-controlling at best. Do you think knocking down Song Yuan proves anything? He's not a close combat martial artist, but I am." His palm conjured up a phantom, with spiritual power flowing to his fingertips, faintly showing dragons flashing by. Elevated version of the 18 palms of Descending Dragon. Today I'll teach you a lesson. Items bestowed by other systems are nothing. Real strength is the absolute truth. Wang Zhe was very confident in his 18 palms of Descending Dragon. It was the supreme palm technique he had obtained after spending a year defeating Xiaofeng. In the martial world, the 18 palms of Descending Dragon might just be another martial art, but with the assistance of the system, when brought to the real world, it had become an elevated cultivation technique, its power not comparable to that of a martial world's top expert. Roar! The dragon's roar resounded like thunder. Wang Zhe waved his palms, and the spiritual power transformed into dragon shadows swirling around him, his aura extremely intense. These dragon shadows could attack and defend, able to unleash formidable destructive power with his palms, and also timely block various attacks. It can be said that the elevated version of the 18 palms of Descending Dragon was flawless. So far, he had never been at a disadvantage against anyone in the mid-stage of chi-controlling. Xiang Beifei wasn't even a practitioner. The power of the system item he borrowed was limited and was nothing before his own 18 palms of Descending Dragon. Even with someone else's system item's help, he couldn't possibly be his match. The dragon shadow of Wang Zhe's 18 palms of Descending Dragon grew increasingly powerful. Then, his body vibrated, transforming into a golden phantom, creating a cracking sound as it rushed towards Xiang Beifei. Boom! Wang Zhe's dragon shadow palm created a thunderous roar stirring the air, forming an intense and violent aura. This palm, mixed with the fierce dragon's roar, was imposing like thunder, shaking the very air and seeming to devour and destroy everything in sight, reducing it to ashes. His palm technique was true to its name. One palm affected the whole body, and with each strike, he could change it into 18 styles. Delivering one palm strike was like delivering 18, each containing flexible transformations and roaring dragon shadows. Within the 18 changing palm winds, only one was real. The rest were feints, but he could instantly transfer the real palm to any of the feints. So each palm was a feint, yet each was also real. Real and unreal, true and false indistinguishable. The dragon shadow palm winds turned into myriad forms, all within a single thought from him. This was the elevated version of the 18 palms of Descending Dragon, terrifyingly powerful. Xiang Beifei lifted his eyelids, watching the overwhelming 18 palms of Descending Dragon. Then he threw a punch. Bang! A muffled thud. Ah! Wang Zhe screamed in agony. His body flew backward like a battered sandbag, crashing into a pillar behind him, and fell to the ground like a puddle of mud. His nose was bloody, the blood spraying on his clothes, creating a shockingly gruesome sight. All flash and no substance. Xiang Beifei muttered. You! Wang Zhe looked at Xiang Beifei in disbelief. He had actually lost. How was this possible? Wang Zhe was stunned, completely unable to accept the fact. If it had been Song Yuan who was knocked down by a punch from Xiang Beifei, it would have been understandable since Song Yuan was a sniper, not a close combat expert. But he, Wang Zhe, was a proper martial artist. He had a powerful system enhancing him, had plundered the supreme cultivation technique, and after receiving the boost from the 18 palms of Descending Dragon, he should have been spirited and prominent. But he had lost. After spending an entire year to kill Qiao Feng and plunder his 18 palms of Descending Dragon, when he performed it, his momentum was like a raging torrent, unstoppable, invincible, and extremely domineering. But he still lost. He could perform the 18 palms of Descending Dragon so brilliantly, seamlessly blending illusion and reality, true and false. Each strike made his opponents dread. Almost no one in the same realm could decipher it. The palms were terrifying and domineering, able to crush rocks into powder with a single hit. But he still lost. He lost to an N-level awakener. The opponent had merely thrown a punch. His intricate and unfathomable palming technique was, in the eyes of his opponent, merely dismissed as all flash and no substance. Wang Zhe looked at Xiang Beifei with a mix of shock and anger. He couldn't stand it, but Xiang Beifei's punch had left him so disoriented that he couldn't even muster the language for a moment, not even able to make a sound. Like he had become mute, just trembling lips staring at Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei's punch had left him without even the strength to speak. Elder Luo also stood frozen in place, staring blankly at Xiang Beifei, even forgetting to crack his sunflower seeds. Wang Zhe might think that Xiang Beifei had won by borrowing someone else's cultivation technique, but as an SR-level late-stage Meridian opening cultivator, his insight was sharp and clear. Xiang Beifei was not relying on someone else's system, but on his own overwhelming boxing technique. Punch down and Wang Zhe flew. There was no room for negotiation. Elder was right. Xiang Beifei turned politely to Elder Luo and said, What did I say? Elder Luo, who hadn't snapped out of it yet, asked blankly. The best way to shut them up is with a fist. Xiang Beifei looked at Wang Zhe and said, See, now he can't talk at all. Elder Luo was stunned for quite a while, but finally came back to his senses, and blinked his eyes before bursting into loud laughter. Ha ha ha! I knew it. I just knew it. How could you possibly be that weak? Come on. I must share some sunflower seeds with you. Let's crack sunflower seeds together. Let's do it. Excited, Elder Luo took out a handful of shiny black sunflower seeds from his pocket and stuffed them into Xiang Beifei's hand without any explanation. Ha! The moment he touched the seeds, Xiang Beifei noticed that these weren't ordinary sunflower seeds, but a peculiar system item. He looked questioningly at Xiaohe, who shook his head, indicating there was nothing abnormal about the seeds. On the contrary, they were quite special. They could replenish energy, stimulate the mind, and seem to even restore some lost spiritual power, making them a recovery item. Thank you, Senior. Xiang Beifei didn't refuse, accepting the sunflower seeds and earnestly started cracking them. Crunchy and fragrant, the seeds transformed into streams of spiritual power and merged into his body. Why call me a senior? I'm just an idle doorman, not impressive at all. Elder Luo waved his hand dismissively. Anyone with more life experience than me is a senior, Xiang Beifei said casually, cracking the seeds. An idle person, yet capable of reaching such a late stage in Meridian opening. He wasn't about to take him lightly. Both being staff at Liangzhou University, Xiang Beifei couldn't see Yi Changfeng's system missions, so he didn't trust Yi Changfeng. However, he could see Elder Luo's leisure system and thus could gauge what kind of person he was. Elder Luo was briefly taken aback and then burst into laughter like an old rascal. Ha ha ha! Kid, I like your frankness. Let's go. Let's go. Since we're free right now, let's go find someone to fight. Xiang Beifei, how idle are you? To actually enjoy watching others fight? I have to wait for someone, Xiang Beifei said. But speaking of which, he was still very curious about Elder Luo's SR-level leisure system. This person owned an SR-level system. His cultivation was only as good as the S-level Li Nanxing and Changshan, which baffled him. He was examining the leisure system description. Elder Luo's daily system missions were filled with all sorts of excruciatingly boring things. Even tasks like watching ants move house or chickens pecking at grains could earn him system values. At this moment, his leisure value totaled 56,233,689. 56 million? Xiang Beifei remembered that S-level principal Li Nanxing only needed 16 million to buy his god-refining pills. Although the systems were different and the methods of calculating system values were different, logically, an SR-level system should cultivate faster and even require fewer system values. He checked the other system market. The leisure system didn't have many system items, not even as diverse as others, but its calculation methods were rather peculiar, seemingly using a mind-washing method to strengthen oneself. In the system's character profile, there was a comprehensive chart. Strength, 1111. Speed, 2,222. Defense, 3,333. Intelligence, 4,444. Agility, 5,555. Social, 6,666. Music, 7,777. This way of allocating points left Xiang Beifei utterly baffled. A person possessed countless innate abilities, which varied in levels of proficiency. This was evident from Qin Yi's S-rank talent aggregation system he encountered last time. Elder Luo's system talents probably displayed tens of thousands of abilities, even including paper-folding ability and dancing ability within its coverage, but the most absurd part of this SR-rank leisure system was that it could freely allocate points to any ability. Put another way, he had a total of over 56 million leisure points, which could be freely allocated to any aspect without any upper limit, as long as the sum total of the abilities slots equaled the leisure points he had collected. He could allocate all his leisure points to strength, or he could allocate them all to speed. Despite currently being idle and randomly adding points to each of his talents in a prank-like order of 111, 222, if he wanted, he could even zero out other abilities and make the strength category show strength. 562333689. When Xiang Beifei discovered this characteristic of the leisure system, he was quite astonished. An SR rank system was indeed outrageous. He suddenly understood what was behind Elder Luo's cultivation level. His system settings did not include a cultivation allocation, and his cultivation level was likely a manifestation of the combined real power of several aspects of his abilities. Even following his nonchalant, pranking way of adding points, his cultivation level had surprisingly reached late meridian opening. Elder Luo's system showed late meridian opening because he randomly allocated points, but if he got serious, reset the points, and redistributed his over 56 million ability points, his real cultivation level would definitely be far beyond the late meridian opening. That way, Xiang Beifei definitely wouldn't be able to see the other party's system interface, as by then, it would only display 3 lines of content, just like the SR rank Yi Chongfeng system. What exactly was Elder Luo's cultivation level? Xiang Beifei was overwhelmingly curious. He suddenly wondered what if all these system points were added to intelligence. Reaching the pinnacle of human IQ, becoming a sage among men? But Xiang Beifei soon noticed a line of advice. Point allocation note. Please host pay attention to balancing abilities appropriately. Do not exceed your capacity to handle them. He sort of understood that putting all points into one category was impractical. Elder Luo could indeed allocate all 56 million leisure points to strength, but accordingly, other physical aspects, such as speed, would diminish if reduced to 0, practically immobilizing him during a fight, making great strength useless without speed. If intelligence were increased to 50 million, the brain's nerves might not keep up with the speed of thought, potentially frying his brain. So even though he could adjust these leisure points at will, balance was necessary, as each point should be set according to the current physical condition to determine the upper and lower limits. But this was already a minor drawback, as Elder Luo surely knew how to distribute these leisure points, maximizing his strongest attributes while considering other aspects. Seeing so, this SR Elder surely couldn't be viewed as a normal person. As Xiang Beifei pondered staring at Elder Luo's system interface, he noticed that Elder Luo also seemed to be contemplating something while watching him. Then, Xiang Beifei inadvertently noticed Elder Luo's system points were rapidly fluctuating. It looked like he was resetting points. Read latest chapters at m_novelbin.net. Immediately, the line for mind reading jumped rapidly from 233 to 99.99, perception shot up from 250 to 88.88, while other aspects like square dancing and shuttlecock kicking abilities dramatically dropped from 99.99 to 123. And then, whoosh, Elder Luo's system interface in Xiang Beifei's eyes turned into Host, Luo Yunxian, SR, Leisure System, State. He's upgrading his realm, preparing to read my mind? Xiang Beifei became instantly alert at the last moment when he saw Elder Luo's system interface disappear. Because he saw Elder Luo's mind-reading ability upgrading, it was obvious that Elder Luo had become curious after witnessing Xiang Beifei send Wang Zhe and Song Yuan flying with a punch, and he decided to try and elevate his own cultivation to see if he could uncover Xiang Beifei's secrets. Xiang Beifei could no longer see Elder Luo's cultivation realm, nor any introduction to the leisure system, indicating that the other party's cultivation had at least ascended to the god-refining stage, or even higher. For such a high-level master, not being able to ascertain what he's doing can be a bit troublesome. Woof, woof, woof. Xiaohe held its head high with an air of confidence, signaling to Xiang Beifei not to worry. After a while, a hint of confusion appeared in Elder Luo's eyes as he continuously adjusted his ability points, trying various means such as scanning, mind reading, and perception to probe into Xiang Beifei, but it seemed he failed. This little guy is quite interesting. Elder Luo had initially been simply curious about Xiang Beifei, but after the latter knocked down Wang Zhe and Song Yuan with a punch, he thought Xiang Beifei might not be as simple as a level N awakener, so he wanted to see Xiang Beifei's true talent. But he found that no matter what he tried, he couldn't penetrate Xiang Beifei's thoughts or discover any of his secrets. Xiang Beifei was like a sealed bottle, very well protected. This was the first time he had encountered this. That made things even more interesting. It seems that if I want to know this little guy's secrets, I'll have to wait for him to be willing to show them, Elder Luo mused. After a while, Elder Luo spat out a melon seed, and then the system interface changed back to Host, Luo Yunxian, SR, Leisure System, Realm, Early Stage of Meridian Opening. Xiang Beifei let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Xiaohe was there. Xiaohe was able to use the spiritual power crystals it collected to thwart anyone's prying. Something Yi Chongfeng's sword couldn't do, and Elder Luo couldn't manage it either. Indeed, an SR-level strength couldn't be underestimated. But then again, this old man really is idle to death. Now he has randomly assigned his leisure value to useless abilities, and his cultivation immediately dropped to the early stage of Meridian Opening. Fortunately, Xiang Beifei could now again see Elder Luo's system introduction, indicating the old man was likely just curious about him, without much malice. Xiang Beifei didn't feel very repelled by him. Read latest stories on m_novelbin.net. There were plenty of people who wanted to pry into his secrets wherever he went. His curiosity piqued. As the son of the SR Talent Awakener Xiang Tianxing, yet only an N-level himself, there were certainly many who would want to test him. Xiang Beifei had been mentally prepared for this ever since he came to Liangzhou University for the assessment. As long as he could see the other party's system interface, he could judge whether a person was trustworthy, and for the moment Elder Luo fell within that range. Xiang Beifei became more curious about Elder Luo. If Elder Luo acted a bit more normally and assigned those leisure values to where they should be, what realm would his true strength reveal? At that moment, the elevator doors opened, and Lu Jiwei came rushing out. Seeing Xiang Beifei, she quickly said, sorry, The mentor insisted we dissect the newly transported desolate beast carcass. I made an excuse to slip away. Come on. I'll take you to training area number 1. She walked a few steps and suddenly realized something was off. There were bloodstains on the ground. Turning her head, she saw Wang Zhe and Song Yuan lying on the ground, groaning weakly in a pitiful state. Lu Jiwei looked at Wang Zhe and Song Yuan on the ground with perplexity, then turned to Xiang Beifei and Luo Laotu and asked the two unharmed men, "What are you doing?" "We're cracking sunflower seeds." Xiang Beifei seriously gestured with the seeds in his hand, looking like he was an outsider to the whole situation. "What happened to them?" Lu Jiwei asked. "They wanted to fight each other, and then this happened." Xiang Beifei pointed at Luo Laotu. "He can testify." "Yes, I can. I'm a security guard," Luo Laotu said leisurely, spitting out sunflower seed shells. "Oh, really?" Lu Jiwei looked dubiously at Wang Zhe and Song Yuan. "I thought you two got along quite well. How come there's sudden infighting, and you both ended up injured?"
Wang Zhe.
"Song Yuan? Are we really fighting each other? We were beaten up. Are you blind? Can't you see the person who beat us is right there cracking seeds?" But they were too beaten up to even gather the strength to argue. Even if they could speak, they'd be too embarrassed to mention it. Surely they couldn't tell Lu Jiwei that they were intending to chastise an N-level awakener and accidentally got smashed instead? Xiang Beifei couldn't be bothered to explain. He found Luo Laotu's seeds quite tasty. Luo Laotu was even less inclined to explain, as watching others fight was his favorite pastime. It was not only a pleasure for the mind and body, but also made him stronger. "You should hurry to the medical office." Lu Jiwei glanced at Wang Zhe and Song Yuan, saw that they were still conscious, and had no time to deal with them. Fighting and sparring in the campus were too common. This was martial arts college, after all. If you couldn't spar, how could you improve? And how would you fight against desolate beasts later on? However, the school rules stated that settling personal disputes should be done in the presence of faculty to avoid fatalities. Luo Laotu was a security guard and official member of the faculty at that. "Come on, I need to take you there. We can't be late." Elder Yuchi, who's responsible for the assessment, has quite a temper. "We better take it easy." Without another thought, Lu Jiwei quickly headed outside. Xiang Beifei followed behind, cracking seeds. Luo Laotu picked up his walkie-talkie and called out, "Hello, hello, hello, is anyone in the medical office? Who needs to finish a healing task? Send someone to Dashang building quickly. There are 2 people here who need help." Medical students, although they belonged to the literary Dao, typically had their studies situated within martial arts college. For these students of medicine who pursue the literary Dao, their systems are related to healing and treating illnesses. Many of them had to rely on treating others to complete their system tasks. Elite universities were full of geniuses, none of whom accepted defeat from anyone. From time to time, there would be fighting within martial arts college. Once cultivators fought, injuries were inevitable. As long as a member of the faculty was present, and nobody was killed or crippled, it was fine. Therefore, medical students who should have been with the literary Dao were stationed in martial arts college. Besides attending classes, their usual routine was waiting to treat those who got injured in fights to complete their system tasks. After informing the medical office, Luo Laotu casually strode after Xiang Beifei. He didn't need to bother with Wang Zhe and Song Yuan. The medical office would send medical students quickly to rescue people. He still had his own leisure tasks to attend to today. The number 1 training ground was already surrounded by countless elite students. Among these people, some, like Elder Luo, were just there to join the fun, curious to see what was so special about the top N-grade student from the preliminary selection, while others planned to gang up and intimidate Xiang Beifei. Motivated by the public outrage sparked by Yulei's article, they wanted to show Xiang Beifei a lesson. Now was the summer vacation period, and most elite students either went home, traveled, or participated in summer internships, so there were naturally fewer students on campus than usual, but today quite a number had made special trips back to the school. Discover more stories at mvlenovelbin.net. The number 1 training ground was a place similar to a gymnasium, It was well known to the students of the Martial Arts College, as they often conducted various simulation trainings here. It featured a variety of sophisticated setups, a high-tech venue perfect for simulating any specific scenario needed for their missions. For instance, if one wanted to kill a desolate beast, it would simulate a battlefield against a desolate beast. If one wanted to practice sniping, it could simulate various extreme conditions. If one wanted to solve crimes, it could recreate various murder scenes. The teaching facilities at the elite university were top-notch, and nearly every student could find scenarios that fit their system abilities to practice in the training ground. That's letting him off too easy, isn't it? Don't be foolish. Do you think the simulations set up by Yuchi the Old Demon are that easy to pass? Too naive. Many people were waiting at the number 1 training ground, talking and speculating, waiting for that spotlighted person to appear. Here he comes. At that moment, someone shouted. Whoosh! Countless gazes swept over. Xiang Beifei had never realized he would attract such attention. Despite it being summer vacation and just past 8 in the morning, there were still more than 200 students from Liangzhou University who had arrived early waiting for him. As soon as he stepped into the training ground from around the corner, all eyes suddenly fell on him. Curious, schadenfreude, indignant, predatory, fierce, and malicious, all sorts of gazes, like so many curved knives, whooshed chaotically over Xiang Beifei. The scene suddenly became very quiet, so quiet that even the sound of a leaf stirred by the wind, rustling on the ground, could be heard. Lu Jiwei briefly scanned her surroundings and whispered, "Why are there so many people? It seems like every student club has sent a representative here. The stir you've caused is rather big." The elite university had countless student departments, nicely termed as student clubs, but frankly speaking, they were just small gangs. Each student club competed against each other, and sometimes to prove their club's superiority, they often organized group fights. Group fights were still tacitly approved by the Martial Arts College because when dealing with desolate beasts, it's rarely a solo fight. Almost always, it involved mutual cooperation, with several students teaming up to fight a single desolate beast, which was considered the best approach. Group fights helped cultivate a tacit understanding of cooperation among students. Of course, the rule remained the same. Fights could happen, but at school, the number of participants had to be equal on both sides, and there must be a teacher present. After the matter with Xiang Beifei came out, the various student clubs seemed to have reached a tacit agreement. Today, many clubs had sent at least one representative, and it seemed that taking the first shot at intimidating this new N-grade student had turned into a matter of pride for the school. As Xiang Beifei approached the training ground, his path was blocked by a group of students. N-grade awakeners are forbidden from passing this way. The leader was a tall boy with his hair combed into a side part, his eyes fiercely fixed on Xiang Beifei. Host, Tao Jin. S-grade, Eagle Eye System. Realm, Advanced Chi Controlling. Tao Jin was a tracking-type system awakener. His eyes could spot anomalies under various extreme conditions and identify his opponent's weaknesses, belonging to the investigative class of martial artists. He blocked Xiang Beifei's path, his gaze darkly appraising Xiang Beifei as he used his system to size him up. You scanned Xiang Beifei, and no spiritual power fluctuations were found. Just someone without any cultivation? That should be easy then. Tao Jin sneered internally. What did it matter if this N-grade awakener had high scores in academic subjects? Without any cultivation, he dared to come to Liangzhou University? The other students also stood by Tao Jin's side, lining up to block the way forward completely. Lu Jiwei stepped forward, stood in front of Xiang Beifei, and challenged, "Tao Jin, what do you mean by this? Dare to block my way?" Tao Jin glanced at Lu Jiwei, slightly wary, then chuckled lightly. "Lu Jiwei, if you want to pass, of course, I won't stop you. But this path is not open to any N-grade individuals. Since when was this decided? Who needs your authorization to pass through?" Lu Jiwei demanded. "This was the result of our collective decision." Tao Jin pointed at the people beside him. "That's right. N-grade trash doesn't deserve to walk this path. If you know what's good for you, get out of Liangzhou University." Some people beside them chimed in as well. Lu Jiwei retorted coldly. So you mean to say that even if Elder Shang Tianxiong of Liangzhou came here, he wouldn't be allowed to walk this path either? Tao Jin's face shifted slightly. That accusation was something he couldn't bear. Everyone knew that the governor of Liangzhou, Shang Tianxiong, was an N-grade awakener, but his achievements were heights that many present might never reach in their lifetimes. Nobody dared to belittle him lightly. Truthfully, although Shang Tianxiong was an N-grade awakener in reality, his achievements were so great that many people even overlooked the fact that his talent was quite ordinary. They never treated him as just a simple N-grade awakener. But strictly speaking, if Tao Jin did not want the N-grade Xiang Beifei to pass through, it meant that he was also not permitting N-grade Shang Tianxiong to pass. As a mere late-stage qi-controlling practitioner, where would he get the audacity to link these two matters together? The roads of an elite campus are only open to the elite. A woman dressed in light clothes stepped forward and timely extricated Tao Jin from his predicament. She twisted her slim waist, smiling charmingly, and said in a crisp, captivating voice, "Elder Shang Tianxiong is a top-notch elite. Of course, he can pass through. Host, Yu Xiaoyao, S-grade, charm allure system, realm, late-stage qi-controlling." Yu Xiaoyao paused, then using her eyes coated with pink eyeshadow, she looked at Xiang Beifei. Does this man really deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as an elder like Shang Tianxiong? Lu Jiwei narrowed her eyes and stared at Yu Xiaoyao, her voice firm. The assessments haven't even started for him yet. How can you determine he isn't an elite? He's an elite? Ha! Tao Jin scoffed, then turned to look at the people around him, asking in a tiresome, oily voice. Here stand all the elite students of Liangzhou University. Please raise your hand if anyone needed to be assessed to enter this institution. Everyone looked at Xiang Beifei with mocking eyes, and many even snorted in disdain. Tao Jin returned his gaze to Xiang Beifei and continued. No one raised their hand. Do you know why? He said condescendingly, dragging out his words. Because true elites do not need to rely on the entrance assessment of Liangzhou University to get in. After he finished speaking, many people laughed. At Liangzhou University, the lowest system talent is our grade. Our grade students are as common as blades of grass, and S-grade students are everywhere. Yet, currently, there isn't a single student who needed to rely on the entrance assessment to get in. The laughter was ear-piercing. They were all mocking Xiang Beifei's overestimation of himself. Xiang Beifei just stood there calmly, scanning the system interfaces of the students present and assessing their cultivation levels. Explore more stories with mvlinovelbin.net. It seemed that the talented students in the Meridian opening stage hadn't come. Those present were mostly in the qi-controlling stage, and most of them had only started attending the university a year earlier than Xiang Beifei. But thinking about it, even for S grades, it is quite difficult to advance to the Meridian opening stage, not to mention for our grades. Many R-grade law enforcement members of the enforcement team are in the late qi-controlling stage and might not reach the Meridian opening stage even by graduation. As for S grades, the early stages of cultivation are relatively quick, and maybe the awakening system could reach the late qi-controlling stage within a year, but to go further is a bottleneck. To step into the Meridian opening stage, it would take at least several years. 2 to 3 years would be considered quick, and 4 to 5 years would be quite normal. And once reaching the Meridian opening stage, the subsequent advancement becomes even more challenging. Even Lu Hong, who had probably graduated from Liangzhou University some 20 years ago, was still at the initial stage of Meridian opening, and only recently, with the help of Xiang Beifei, did he begin to advance to the middle stage of cultivation. Of course, Lu Hong's cultivation hadn't progressed further due to a past injury he sustained, and because advancing during the Meridian opening stage is difficult and it takes more time. But even so, real Meridian opening stage cultivators only make up a very small part of the university's students. Liangzhou University has graduation requirements for its students. Besides needing to earn enough credits for certain courses, there are also strict stipulations for strength. Our grades to graduate need to be at least in the late qi-controlling stage. S grades to graduate must at least be in the initial Meridian opening stage. Those genius students who have already reached the Meridian opening stage have either left the school or might have stayed to continue further study. Elite students who stay to delve deeper are busy with their own courses and wouldn't waste time coming to such a place to trouble an N-grade student. Since there were no students in the Meridian opening stage present, that would make things easier. Seeing Tao Jin and the others still aggressively blocking the way, Lu Jiwei warned, "If you block him, when Mr. Yuchi arrives later, you are going to suffer the consequences." Tao Jin and Yu Xiaoyao both frowned upon hearing Lu Jiwei's words. They knew too well how terrifying Yuchi Shin was, called Old Devil by the students because he trained them ruthlessly. Nobody wanted to provoke the bad luck of offending Yuchi Shin, especially since today's entrance assessment for Xiang Beifei was under his charge. If they caught his attention, they could expect to be skinned during the next training session. Yuchi Shin hadn't arrived yet, so they dared to block the way here. But if Yuchi Shin were to arrive later, they'd be too busy trying to escape. Tao Jin and Yu Xiaoyao exchanged glances and then gave a few suggestive looks to the others around them. "Fine, if you want to pass this way," Tao Jin said, with a smile that wasn't quite a smile as he looked at Xiang Beifei. Thud, thud, thud. At this moment, a dense series of footsteps approached, the steps sounding extremely heavy as if the person was wearing 1,000-pound shoes, seemingly stomping on everyone's heart with each step. Tao Jin and Yu Xiaoyao, among others, tacitly stepped back, clearing the way. Soon, a person entered Xiang Beifei's line of sight from behind. It was an extremely fat male student, as wide as 3 normal people put together, his flesh layered upon layer, bulging in an exaggerated manner. But what was piled upon him wasn't excess fat. It was solid muscle. Each section of muscle undulated as he moved, faintly brimming with terrifying power. Host, Xiong Meng. S-rank, flesh striking system. Realm, late-stage chi controlling. Xiong Meng was a very greedy person. As long as someone gave him a little benefit and told him what to do, he wouldn't hesitate and wouldn't consider the consequences. Tao Jin and Yu Xiaoyao didn't want to provoke the bad luck associated with Yuchi Shin, so they found Xiong Meng to take the lead, as he was thick-skinned and wouldn't be much affected by Yuchi Shin's grinding. "It's actually this guy." Lu Jiwei's face changed slightly, obviously recognizing Xiong Meng. Xiong Meng was massive, a martial artist who specifically cultivated physical prowess. He had a big reputation in their cohort because every section of his muscles contained great strength. The speed of physical cultivation was incredibly slow. Other S-rank systems had reached the late stage of chi controlling months ago, but he had only stepped into it last week. Back when he was only at the mid-stage of chi controlling, Xiong Meng was able to confront ordinary late-stage chi controlling warriors just with his muscular body. Now, although he had only been at the late stage of chi controlling for a few days, even Lu Jiwei could not afford to underestimate him. Lu Jiwei, worried that Xiang Beifei might suffer a loss, still stood in front of Xiang Beifei and shouted at Xiong Meng. "Xiong Meng, don't look for trouble where there isn't any." A red light shone on her arm, ready to deal with Xiong Meng at any moment. However, Yu Xiaoyao's gaze suddenly lit up with a red gleam, as she smiled at Lu Jiwei. "Lu Jiwei, listen, what's that sound?" A series of tinkling laughter reached Lu Jiwei's ears. "I've been careless." Lu Jiwei inwardly cried out, realizing her mistake. She had focused all her attention on Xiong Meng and had neglected Yu Xiaoyao. Whoosh! An eerie pink light flared up, and Lu Jiwei and Yu Xiaoyao vanished from the spot. Yu Xiaoyao's ability was known as Charm Allure, where degree refers to a dimensional space. A 1-degree space is a one-dimensional space, and currently, she had unlocked up to 7 degrees, meaning she could create a 7-degree space. She could lure anyone into her created system space through charm and use the special properties of the dimensional space to suppress her opponent. Yu Xiaoyao knew that Lu Jiwei was not easy to handle. Lu Jiwei also had a considerable reputation in their cohort, possessing top-notch qualities in all aspects, and she was straightforward by nature, not caring how others viewed her. If Lu Jiwei intervened in matters concerning Xiang Beifei, others who wanted to trouble Xiang Beifei might have second thoughts, so Yu Xiaoyao directly pulled Lu Jiwei into the 7-degree space, denying her the chance to protect Xiang Beifei. Yu Xiaoyao and Lu Jiwei were both in the late stage of chi controlling, So even if she dragged her in, she wouldn't gain much of an advantage, but it could buy some time, leaving Xiang Beifei alone at the scene. Many people saw Lu Jiwei, who wanted to protect Xiang Beifei, being led away by Yu Xiaoyao, and their mocking glances towards Xiang Beifei intensified. They knew that this overconfident N-level awakener was about to face serious trouble. Xiong Meng's quivering muscles were truly formidable. Each time they pulsated, the muscles trembled, resonating slightly with the air, and through the friction of his own spiritual power, they could unleash an incredibly powerful impact. A single punch from him could smash a 10-meter-deep crater into the ground. In the last batch of freshmen at Liangzhou University, he was known as the S-level human bulldozer, a nickname that was well-earned. During practical combat classes, he would usually take hits with his body, endure his opponent's attacks, and then charge at them like a bulldozer. Many people disliked fighting against him because they couldn't break through his defense. Blades and spears couldn't pierce him, and even regular bullets were blocked. If one was not careful, they could be smashed into a pulp by him. There were few at the same level who could withstand a punch from him. Both his defensive and offensive powers were incredibly formidable. It could be said that in the previous batch of freshmen, only he could withstand the torture administered by Yu Qixin. Even when Xiong Meng was in the middle phase of qi controlling, nobody dared to trouble him, and these past few days, as he had just stepped into the later stage of qi controlling, his power had escalated even further. No one had truly sparred with him yet, so no one knew just how powerful the current Xiong Meng actually was. But he was undoubtedly more terrifying than ever. Many people, seeing Xiong Meng ready to intimidate the N-level newcomer, gave Xiang Beifei sympathetic looks. If even those at S-level couldn't withstand his strike, what could the weakest N-level awakener do? But amidst their sympathy, they also reveled in schadenfreude. For today everyone had come to put Xiang Beifei in his place, and Xiong Meng was the chosen enforcer. This kid's probably going to have a headache now, someone said. Even Elder Luo, who was always stirring up excitement in the back, slowed his pace of eating sunflower seeds, glanced at Xiong Meng, then at Xiang Beifei, pondering the situation at hand. Although he was usually idle, he was still quite familiar with the new generation. He was well aware of Xiong Meng's overall situation. This big guy focused on cultivating his physique, was a bit slow-witted, but was a formidable stock of potential. Xiong Meng was a grade higher than Xiang Beifei and had practiced for an additional year. His physique was so strong. He couldn't be compared to the likes of Wang Zhe and Song Yuan from just a moment ago. It's just unclear how this kid plans to deal with this Xiong Meng. Xiong Meng took heavy steps, walking towards Xiang Beifei step by step, then stopped, his small eyes flickering with ferocity as he rubbed his fists and said in a low voice, "You're in my way." Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment, then stepped aside. Many people who saw Xiang Beifei's action laughed again. This guy is scared, so obediently stepping aside, "Haha, if you're so scared, why don't you just roll out of Liangzhou University? Xiong Meng, why not give him a push?" Many were egging on, eager to see how Xiong Meng would deal with this N-level newcomer. Seeing Xiang Beifei make way, Xiong Meng flashed a row of sinister, brick-like teeth, staring at Xiang Beifei, and said again, "What I mean is, you're blocking my view." Xiang Beifei looked puzzledly at Xiong Meng. "Don't you get it? This is Liangzhou University. You should roll out of my sight." Xiong Meng extended his arm, muscles rippling on his arms, trembling. The powerful spiritual power echoed through the muscles, unleashing terrifying and immense strength. Xiang Beifei then realized, and immediately asked, "You mean you don't want to see me?" Xiong Meng flashed a mocking smile. "Exactly. I don't want to see you." Many continued to shout, "If you know what's good for you, just roll out of Liangzhou University. Liangzhou University is not a place for N-level trash like you. Hurry up and roll to a place where Xiong Meng can't see you, or you'll suffer." Xiong Meng's energy was overwhelming, and in their view, he completely overpowered the frail N-level awakener. Due to the article about Xiang Beifei by Yulei, Liangzhou University had recently been besieged by netizens from all over Zhuzhou, and now the article's main character was being treated unfairly here, adding to their excitement. Xiang Beifei nodded thoughtfully. Fine, he said. If you don't want to see me. Whoosh! This time his fist burst into intense flames. A fleeting gleam flashed through Xiang Beifei's eyes. He couldn't be bothered with idle talk and struck out swiftly, hitting the limits of speed. Whiz! It was still a plain and simple punch. This kid actually dares to throw a punch at Xiong Meng? Is he overestimating himself? He probably doesn't know how freakish Xiong Meng's defensive power is. Xiong Meng could just stand there and let him hit him for 3 days and 3 nights without a scratch. Find adventures at m_el_inovelbin.net. Many people, upon seeing Xiang Beifei make his move, scoffed. Even Xiong Meng wore a look of disdain. His typical strategy in a fight was to take hits first, waiting for his opponent to tire, then he would strike. I said, I don't want to see you again. Unmoved by Xiang Beifei's punch, Xiong Meng's muscles quivered as he fortified his protection. In his eyes, Xiang Beifei's slender fist was just like tapping him lightly, barely tickling him. Xiang Beifei's fist was already covered in flames, and amidst the laughter of the crowd, it pounded into Xiong Meng's belly. Boom! A bizarre force transferred from his fist to Xiong Meng's body. Spiritual power swirled and penetrated into Xiong Meng's trembling muscles. Xiong Meng's explosively powerful muscles paused momentarily, then suddenly shrank, as if they had been drained of power. The originally smug grin on Xiong Meng's face froze. He felt a tightness in his chest followed by a terrifying force impacting his body, instantly reducing his defensive capabilities. His body couldn't withstand the punch. Boom! Xiong Meng flew out like a meatball, his bulky body tumbling twice in the air and plunging headfirst into a flower bed. Clatter! His legs were still stuck in the air, pointing at the sky, twitching slightly. Silence. Dead silence. Everyone present constricted their pupils, and even their heartbeats skipped a beat. What just happened? Everyone's minds were blank. The so-called human bulldozer, an S-level awakener Xiong Meng, had just been sent flying by a punch from an N-level awakener? They had thought Xiang Beifei was going to have a rough time with Xiong Meng today. If Xiang Beifei stubbornly refused to leave, it was likely that Xiong Meng might have grabbed him and thrown him out. But unexpectedly, it wasn't Xiang Beifei who was thrown out, but Xiong Meng, who had both immense defensive and offensive powers. This way, you shouldn't be able to see me anymore. Xiang Beifei retracted his fist, the flames on his fist slowly calming down, and as he looked at Xiong Meng, who had been planted upside down in the flower bed, he seriously said. The entire crowd of over 200 taunting students suddenly fell silent. Many people even found it hard to believe what had just happened. Although Xiong Meng had only stepped into the late stage of chi controlling a few days ago, he was, after all, an S-rank with an incredibly strong physique. His muscles were terrifying, and typically he was the one sending others flying. How did he end up being the one smashed away today? Xiang Beifei's punch was too bizarre. Even Tao Jin, who had the eagle eye system, hadn't seen it clearly. He was even startled into ducking his head by Xiang Beifei's fist. Tao Jin was well aware that if he were to be hit by Xiang Beifei's punch, he would likely be sent flying even further than Xiong Meng. Is this really an N-level awakener? Did he rely on his own strength? Or did he rely on someone else's system for help? Many people looked at Xiang Beifei in shock. Originally, everyone had come today to trouble this N-level awakener, planning to intimidate an N-level awakener. However, they had underestimated the N-level awakener too much. In the end, who was intimidating whom? With Xiong Meng, the last tournament's strongest defender, sent flying, who else possessed the strength to intimidate Xiang Beifei? This. Lu Jiwei and Yu Xiaoyao also appeared on the scene. Although Yu Xiaoyao had dragged Lu Jiwei into her 7-degree space, Lu Jiwei was not someone to be trifled with. She shattered the space with a punch and came out just in time to see Xiang Beifei's punch. The two of them were also startled. Xiong Meng weighed at least 200 to 300 pounds, and just like that, he was sent flying by Xiang Beifei with a punch? Elder Luo, nibbling on sunflower seeds in the crowd, brightened up. This flame, this method of circulating spiritual power? What cultivation technique has he practiced? Read latest chapters at m_novelbin.net. The students might not notice, but he had been observing Xiang Beifei's punching technique from the very start. Wang Zhe and Song Yuan were far less powerful than Xiong Meng. They were directly overpowered by Xiang Beifei's tyrannical punch, and at that time, Xiang Beifei hadn't even used his full strength. But the punch Xiang Beifei landed on Xiong Meng's body not only burst into flames, it also contained a very special clever force. It was exactly this clever force that rendered the very muscular Xiong Meng completely unable to cope. Xiong Meng was known as the S-rank human bulldozer, with layers upon layers of muscles that trembled slightly whether he was moving or standing still. His defense relied on the combination of muscle and spiritual power, with explosive destructive and defensive power emanating in the tremors of his muscles. However, the spiritual power on Xiang Beifei's fist was very strange. When he struck Xiong Meng's muscles, the spiritual power acting between Xiong Meng's muscles was twisted and pulled by his flames, then ignited. The most bizarre thing was that Xiong Meng's constantly throbbing muscles seemed to have been forcefully stilled in an instant. All his muscles couldn't move, cutting off the flow of spiritual power abruptly. At present, Xiong Meng was only in the chi-controlling stage, and his physique was only relatively unsolvable compared to his peers but not incredibly powerful. Once Xiong Meng's muscles couldn't gather spiritual power, his body lost its strong defensive and offensive power, making him no different from a fat ordinary man with a bit more weight. Nothing special. He only cultivated his physique, focusing on defense and strength, but his speed was very slow. Faced with Xiang Beifei's fist, he couldn't possibly react in time. With such talent, does he still need an admission test? Wahahaha! Elder Luo became more and more excited, finding more and more pleasure in his thoughts and liking Xiang Beifei more and more every time he looked at him, knocking the sunflower seeds with even greater enthusiasm. In an inconspicuous corner of the training ground stands, Yi Changfeng was sitting there alone, quietly watching everything. The Long Yuan sword floated beside him, humming softly. He actually has late-stage chi-controlling cultivation? So, is he an SR rank awakener now? Asked the Long Yuan sword, astonished. The spiritual power contained in that fist technique was not from the late stage of chi-controlling, but the middle stage of chi-controlling, Yi Changfeng said with a slight smile before adding, however, I think his talent is definitely not as simple as an N-grade. Middle stage of chi-controlling? He took down a late-stage chi-controlling cultivator with a single punch using middle-stage strength. The Long Yuan sword was increasingly astonished. We didn't even notice his cultivation level that day. Yi Changfeng raised his hand to adjust his glasses and said helplessly, I should have thought of that earlier. Thought of what? You couldn't tell either that day. It's precisely because I couldn't tell. Stop with that. Just admit you didn't know. The Long Yuan scolded angrily. Yi Changfeng was choked by his companion, the Long Yuan sword, but he just laughed and said nothing. After a while, he turned to Luo Lao-Tu, who was cracking sunflower seeds in the crowd, and said, I think he's going to snatch someone away again. The Long Yuan sword also looked toward the security-uniformed Luo Lao-Tu, seeming to harbor considerable wariness toward this man whose cultivation was only at the late stage of meridian opening. It's normal. Xiang Tianqing's son is here. He wouldn't let him go no matter what. Maybe you could compete with him for it. I don't dare provoke him.
Yi Changfeng similed.
He was clearly above the meridian opening stage in cultivation, but he did not dare to provoke the old man who was only at the meridian opening stage. Because the old man was bored enough to work as a school security guard. That old man would do anything out of boredom, and when he got bored, he was extremely terrifying. Xiang Beifei remained calm and unflustered despite all the watching eyes. Luo Lao-Tu was right. In the elite university, as long as you have a powerful fist, others will shut up. Liangzhou University reportedly has over 30,000 students on campus, and only around 200 showed up. The truly bright and elite students were always busy and preferred to spend their time on cultivation rather than troubling him. There wasn't even a single student at the meridian opening stage present. Only those without strength, unable to compare with the capable ones, would go about clamoring on forums, and particularly seek to assert their presence on someone they perceive as lower ranked than themselves, an N-grade awakener. Xiang Beifei knew clearly that this group of people could not represent the students of the elite university and couldn't be expected to protect the future of the human race. Now it was good. A single punch made them quiet down. Xiong Meng's defensive power might be formidable, causing headaches for many, but in Xiang Beifei's eyes, the flaws were too obvious. The muscles required rapid trembling to muster defensive power, so all he needed was an abruptly stop to cease his muscle movement and then one punch to resolve it. Brutally simple. Xiang Beifei walked casually forward, pausing beside Tao Jin. He stopped and looked at him. "You don't want to see me either, do you?" Xiang Beifei asked earnestly. "I." Tao Jin was startled by Xiang Beifei's gaze, taking 2 steps back in shock. Then he snapped back to his senses, realizing he had been frightened off by an N-grade awakener. His face flushed with embarrassment. It was a huge disgrace for him. But was it really a disgrace? Tao Jin wasn't sure, because if he hadn't stepped back willingly, perhaps he'd soon be flying backward unwillingly. Tao Jin still didn't believe that an N-rank awakener could have repelled Xiong Meng, and he still thought that Xiang Beifei defeated Xiong Meng by relying on system artifacts given to him by others. The issue was that this was a world where everyone could cheat with systems. As long as someone was willing to help you, as long as you had the cultivation level to wield someone else's power, it was okay to use any person's system artifacts. If you were the one who deployed the power of the system artifact, no one would accuse you of an undeserved victory. In this world, using cheats was only reasonable. Especially here at the martial arts college, a place where fighting was permitted. To cultivate martial artists for Jiuzhou, who would combat desolate beasts, nobody cared whose system artifact you used. They only cared whether you could kill the desolate beast or survive a siege by desolate beasts. But then again, thinking about it, something seemed off. Because to use someone else's system artifact, there were limitations on one's cultivation level. It wasn't that anyone could just hand you something, and you would become as strong as them. Deploying system artifacts required one's own spiritual power as a medium. Thus spiritual power limited the power of the system artifacts. If Xiang Beifei didn't have the necessary cultivation level, how could he have utilized someone else's system artifacts and possibly blasted the late-stage chi-controlling Xiong Meng with a single punch? Could it be that this N-rank awakener also possessed a late-stage chi-controlling cultivation level? Impossible. His awakening system was only 2 months old, right? Tao Jin couldn't figure it out, but he also dared not contradict Xiang Beifei any longer. Instead, he was left red-faced by Xiang Beifei's questioning. At that moment, a stir suddenly emerged from the crowd. "Quite lively, huh?" A lazy, dull voice rose around Xiang Beifei. It was a middle-aged man, with a hawk-like nose, triangular eyes, thin lips, high cheekbones. His features were extremely discordant. It was as though at birth, he randomly chose the most mismatched nose and eyes to stick on his face, then mixed them carelessly before letting him be born. An exceedingly bizarre face. He had shoulder-length, messy, wavy hair, looking as if it hadn't been washed in centuries. The appearance of this man seemed to drop the surrounding temperature by several degrees. Xiang Beifei turned his head, looking at the man before him. "Host. Yuqishin. SR level purgatory system. Realm. Yuqishin. Known to the students of Liangzhou University as Elder Yuqi Old Devil. The professor who signed the assessment notice, and famously terrifying martial artist who was once the arch-rival of Xiang Tianqing during their student days. Xiang Beifei looked at the other system, thinking deeply. SR level, he wasn't surprised. To be honest, up to now, he had already encountered 3 SR awakeners. Apart from Elder Luo idly messing with talents, he couldn't see the system tasks or introductions of Yi Changfeng and Yuqishin. But the word purgatory was definitely not a fun system. Yuqishin stared coldly at Xiang Beifei and spoke. "You have quite the nerve. Fighting is prohibited on campus, and yet before even enrolling, you want to break the rules?" Many people, upon seeing Yuqishin reprimand Xiang Beifei, snapped out of their previous shock. Yuqishin's tone was unfriendly. This tone, Anyone familiar with the old devil knew all too well. Although Xiang Beifei had just knocked down Xiong Meng, it was Yuqi Shun who truly terrified everyone. No one around dared to speak. They all held their breath, watching Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei calmly looked at Yuqi Shun and said, "There are faculty members present. Isn't fighting allowed then? I wasn't at the scene. Where are the faculty members from?" Yuqi Shun retorted coldly. Continue reading at mvili-novelbin.net. Haha. Collapse. Someone broke the silence. The sound was very abrupt, as if spitting something out, accompanied by the sound of chewing. Everyone was wondering who was so bold to speak up at this moment. Wasn't this provoking Yuqi Shun's wrath? Turning their heads, they realized it was Elder Luo casually spitting out melon seed shells. "I'm watching." Elder Luo leisurely cracked seeds. Many had seen Elder Luo, the security guard who often dozed off in a chair at the school gate, appearing very unprofessional, yet he was genuinely a faculty member capable of testifying in students' fights. When Yuqi Shun saw Elder Luo, his gaze became even colder. He didn't retort at Elder Luo but instead turned to glare at Xiang Beifei, continuing harshly, "You haven't even passed the assessment, just an outsider? Is the school rule set for you? Since the rule isn't set for me, then beating them seems quite appropriate," Xiang Beifei said calmly. Yuqi Shun narrowed his eyes, his tone becoming even colder, as if about to devour someone, his thin lips emitting a deathly threatening sound. "You know this is Liangzhou University, right? You dare to come to my school and beat up my students? You think our school has no teachers?" The surrounding temperature dropped several degrees. Many had realized that Yuqi Shun was also planning to make things difficult for this freshman. Turns out Elder Yuqi, the old devil, despised a grade N freshman more than all the students present. Had they known this, they wouldn't have needed to act at all. Just waiting for Elder Yuqi to make a move would have sufficed. Many were excited again, wanting to see how Elder Yuqi would punish this arrogant grade N student. Xiang Beifei remained unhurried and calm. A college student from Liangzhou University wants to trouble a high school student who came for the entrance assessment. The well-trained elite university student couldn't beat this high school student. So a mighty Liangzhou University teacher has to personally deal with this high school student who just awakened his system 2 months ago? I think the teachers of Liangzhou University have higher morals than this. They wouldn't do such a disgraceful thing. At these words, everyone was momentarily stunned. Then their expressions became very strange. Xiang Beifei's words sounded extremely harsh to them, because Liangzhou University was known as an elite university, where every student was claimed to be elite. But elites were knocked down by a just-graduated high school student with a single punch, which was already smacking these so-called elite students in the face. Xiang Beifei's punch had almost broken the elite university's sign. If Yuqi Shun condescended to lay hands on him now, it would be akin to telling outsiders that their school's elite students couldn't beat an outsider grade N high school student and needed a teacher's assistance to discipline them. If this got out, then Yuqi Shun would be stepping all over the already smashed university sign. The most pressing matter was whether Liangzhou University now wanted to accept this grade N high school student. Not accept? Because you think this grade N student doesn't meet Liangzhou University's admission qualifications? But your proud elite students were swung away by this grade N high school student, couldn't beat a not yet enrolled grade N student, and then claim that the student does not qualify to attend Liangzhou University? What are those elite students that Liangzhou University usually enrolls supposed to be? If news of this incident reached the ears of the other 8 elite universities, or spread throughout Zhozhou, then Liangzhou University would truly become the laughingstock of the entire alliance. The only way to cleanse this disgrace was to acknowledge that Xiang Beifei was a prospective student at Liangzhou University. Then it could be said that it was just schoolmates sparring among themselves. Losing to one's own people was nothing shameful, nor would it tarnish the school's reputation. But once Yuqi Shun regarded Xiang Beifei as part of Liangzhou University, and since faculty members had been present, Xiang Beifei's act of hitting someone was in accordance with the rules, and he as a teacher couldn't intervene, otherwise he would be the one breaking the rules. No matter from which angle, Xiang Beifei's logic was sound. Yuqi Shun's face looked almost like it was about to wring out water. He had not expected Xiang Beifei to dare to block him with such words. "Are you trying to coerce me with that approach of using public pressure again?" asked Yu Qixin coldly. "If that's what you think, then you've threatened the wrong person. Public pressure doesn't work on me." "Public pressure?" Xiang Beifei turned his head to look at Xiong Meng, who was still struggling to rise from the flower bed. The human bulldozer he had knocked senseless with a punch, and slowly said, "Do I need it?" Hiss! Many people gasped. This guy's tone was so arrogant. He actually dared to say that, especially to someone known as the Old Devil, Yu Qixin. But the over 200 elite students present, oddly enough, couldn't find an excuse to refute him. Because Xiang Beifei really didn't need it. That punch had already made it very clear. "Ha ha ha. This kid is really sharp. I gave him a few pointers, and he learned them right away," said Luo Lao-Tu, spitting seeds everywhere. Continue your adventure with mvle-novelbin.net. He knew that just with that punch, Xiang Beifei had already earned his admission. With him present, Yu Qixin could no longer find any reason to deny Xiang Beifei. In the martial arts college of Liangzhou University, fists are the ultimate truth, and Xiang Beifei's punch was not aided by someone else's system ability but his own cultivated strength. If it was academic performance, Xiang Beifei was ranked first in the National College entrance examination. If it was martial prowess, Xiang Beifei had sent the S-level Xiong Meng flying. Last time, maybe everyone thought Xiang Beifei was relying on public pressure, but this time Xiang Beifei was relying on his fists. Yu Qixin narrowed his eyes, staring at Xiang Beifei, like the gaze of the Grim Reaper. In fact, he had arrived earlier, but had deliberately not shown himself, allowing those elite students to trouble Xiang Beifei. The one he hated the most back then was Xiang Tianqing. Seeing Xiang Tianqing's son being troubled by the human bulldozer Xiong Meng, he naturally wanted to stand aside and enjoy the show. He had just been sneering. "Xiang Tianqing? Oh Xiang Tianqing, who would have thought your N-level useless son would have days like this?" However, this thought had just emerged, and in the next moment Xiong Meng was sent flying. Yu Qixin's face turned as sour as if he was constipated. He was an SR level, just like Elder Luo, and he was very clear about what Xiang Beifei's punch meant. Even if he hated Xiang Tianqing deeply, he had to acknowledge the talent in that punch. Although he was in charge of this admissions test, it didn't mean he was the only one paying attention to Xiang Beifei. Especially since this N-level student is no ordinary person. Having secured the top original score and dominated all the examinees in Juzhou, he is also the son of Xiang Tianqing, the famous SR genius student from Liangzhou University over 2 decades ago. During today's enrollment assessments, numerous teachers and senior leaders of the school were secretly observing everything. The number of teachers he could perceive, including Yi Changfeng, was about 7. As for those he couldn't perceive, who knew how many there were? Not to mention, that old man who appeared the most lively and carefree as he nonchalantly cracked sunflower seeds was too much for him to handle. Students might not know who this boring old man was, but Yu Qixin was well aware of his status within the school. Although Yu Qixin was in charge of handling the enrollment assessment matters, the decision on whether Xiang Beifei was qualified for admission was not up to him, but those people, including the sunflower seed-cracking old man. From what he could see, Xiang Beifei had indeed punched his way to qualifying for admission as a Liangzhou University student. However, Yu Qixin sneered shortly afterwards. "Admission then, admit. I even look forward to you enrolling, attending my class later, and then we can have a good talk about life." But today's enrollment assessment still had to proceed as usual, following all procedures, and eventually, he would certainly need to teach you a lesson. Yu Qixin glanced at his system interface, pondered for a moment, and the corner of his mouth showed a sinister curl. "Since there was a staff ID just now, I won't pursue it. Then next, whether you can pass the enrollment assessment is up to your luck," Yu Qixin said to Xiang Beifei with a smirk. Assessment. Many students perked up. The assessments set by Old Devil Yuchi were absolutely serious business. Usually, if they accidentally got scheduled for a martial arts simulation training class with Old Devil Yuchi, they would be harshly schooled. The simulations he set up were abnormally difficult, and passing them without being stripped down a layer was nearly impossible. Worst of all, old devil Yuchi had the highest failure rate among all the teachers at Liangzhou University. The students who had failed under him could nearly form a line around Liangzhou University. Given that Xiang Beifei had been utterly uncompromising in his words to Yuchi-shin just before, wouldn't Yuchi-shin want to knock him down a few pegs? Xiang Beifei watched Yuchi-shin smile. His expression remained undisturbed. Principal Li Nanxing had long told him that Yuchi-shin was his father's arch-nemesis, so it was perfectly normal for him to be harassed. Because of Xiang Tianxing, Xiang Beifei was bound to receive extra attention from this man. This meant that whether he spoke politely to Yuchi-shin or directly confronted him, it would make no difference. Since that was the case, he had nothing to retreat from. He faced it calmly, ready to retort whenever necessary, and couldn't afford to tarnish his father's reputation. All he wondered was the method this man would use to assess him today. Purgatory system. What exactly is it? Xiang Beifei pondered slightly. Yuchi-shun was of SR level, and his cultivation was above meridian opening. He couldn't see the other system introduction or the related task difficulties, so he could not make effective responses. But since it was called the Purgatory system, it very likely meant extremely challenging tasks. Lu Jiwei had said that Yuchi-shun normally liked using various harsh trainings to torment people. Could it be that he relied on throwing students into a purgatory he created and then assessed their performance to enhance his own strength? With Xiang Beifei's understanding of systems, he deemed this possibility highly probable. His father had apparently severely thwarted Yuchi-shin in the past. If Yuchi-shin couldn't surpass the senior, he would trouble the junior. Now seeking to extract some interest from him, the upcoming assessment was likely going to be tough. But no matter, if you make things difficult for me, I won't make it easy for you either. I never go easy on certain types of people. Xiang Beifei wasn't worried about being suspected for taking Yuchi-shin's system reward, although he didn't know what the other's system task was. The higher the level of the system reward, the longer it definitely took to complete. He had only completed one system task, which might not be enough for Yuchi-shin to receive a reward immediately. It probably would accumulate over some time, possibly taking several days, or even several months to receive. During this period, many changes could occur, and many people would be involved in his task, making it less likely for Yuchi-shin to suspect him. Even if some small rewards could be obtained immediately, Xiang Beifei also needed to alert Xiaohei, reminding it to pick the timing and disguise itself when retrieving the parcel. The instructors at elite universities weren't like Yang Hua, whose cultivation was only in the late stage of qi controlling. They were more vigilant, and Xiang Beifei had to be even more cautious when exploiting the system. Training Ground 1 was like a stadium, very large, only instead of grass, the ground was covered with glittering transparent black slates. These slates were quite peculiar. When you walked on them, you could see your own reflection, but the reflection on the floor wasn't foot to foot like in a mirror, flipped over in your current posture. It seemed more like there was another self standing right below you. It was hard to say if it was really a reflection. Perhaps calling it a projection was more apt. The other elite students all sat in the spectator seats. Training Ground 1 allowed others to watch someone's simulation training, where spectators could immersively see the scenarios encountered by the people in the field. This facilitated mutual learning among everyone, to glean various experiences and identify individual shortcomings, as was customary in regular simulation training. Yuchi-shin stood at the center of Training Ground 1, waiting for Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei also slowly walked towards him. I don't care whom you punched away, but in front of me, an assessment is an assessment, and if you don't pass, then you have no place in Liangzhou University, Yuchi-shin said slowly. Even though he knew that Xiang Beifei was essentially guaranteed admission, he couldn't truly tell Xiang Beifei that, or Xiang Beifei wouldn't take this assessment seriously. All right then. Xiang Beifei didn't show any reaction. Yuchi-shin thought he was unclear, but he actually understood it better than anyone. At today's training ground, besides the more than 200 elite students in the qi controlling stage, there were also 13 powerful presences in various inconspicuous corners. Xiang Beifei couldn't see what these people looked like. They used various methods to hide their figures and stood in the unremarkable corners of the spectator seats, not easily noticed by ordinary people. But Xiang Beifei could vaguely see these people's system panels. Although a few were too far away, making the system panel information unclear, he could still vaguely discern that these people's system panels contained only 3 simple lines of information. Apart from the SR-level Yi Changfeng and Elder Luo, there were 6 other SR-level individuals and another 5 S-level experts. Of these 13, 12 showed that their system stages were above the meridian opening. Even those 5 S-level individuals, their system interfaces were unclear to Xiang Beifei. Clearly, these 5 were among the top in the S-level, having broken through the meridian opening stage, likely reaching the God refining stage. The remaining SR who was somewhat unremarkable was Elder Luo, at the meridian opening initial stage. However, with Elder Luo's system characteristics, Xiang Beifei wouldn't underestimate him. The powerful instructors of Liangzhou University were definitely not limited to these 13. Probably only these 13 had come, while others might be watching from elsewhere using other methods. These people were here to observe him. After his punch earlier, countless prying eyes chaosly glanced at him, wanting to understand what he was really about. Xiaohe was huffy, constantly being glared at by others to the point of nearly losing its temper. Xiang Beifei had a good idea whether or not he could be admitted. He knew he was almost certainly secure. Yu Qixin wanting to assess him was merely a pretext to intimidate him personally. However, he did not shrink back. He still needed to complete this assessment rightfully and justly. "I'll just assume you're ready." Yu Qixin chuckled softly, then flicked his hand, and a metal ball came smashing towards Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei furrowed his brows. He did not know the purpose of this metal ball, but he still reached out to catch it. The iron ball was only the size of an egg and felt ice-cold to the touch. The moment he grasped the iron ball, it suddenly burst out a gray glow, enveloping his hand. "To pass my admission test, you need to kill a 3 souls desolate snake. But if you come back empty-handed, it means your admission test has failed, and you will have nothing to do with Liangzhou University." Yu Qixin sneered at Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei felt something was amiss, for at that moment, he saw Yi Changfeng transform into a streak of light, rushing from afar and shouting towards him, "Yu Qixin, you've gone too far." Even Elder Luo stopped eating sunflower seeds and stood up with a solemn expression. Net. What does this mean? Xiang Beifei did not understand what had happened. He felt a light emanating from the iron ball in his hand, forming a peculiar pattern under his feet. Suddenly, he was enveloped by darkness, as if something had grabbed him and pulled him into a vortex. Yi Changfeng was just a moment too late to grab Xiang Beifei. By the time he arrived, Xiang Beifei had already vanished from the training ground. Yu Qixin. A wrathful look appeared on Yi Changfeng's usually elegant face, and his aura instantly became fiercely sharp, like a drawn sword pointing directly at Yu Qixin. "What's wrong? Yi Changfeng, do you have time to chat with me today?" Yu Qixin waved to shield their conversation, preventing the other students from listening in. "This is an admission test. Just a test. How dare you send him to that kind of place? You have a personal grudge with Xiang Tianqing, using such disgraceful means under the guise of duty."
Ye Changfeng roared.
"The school has assigned me to handle the N-level candidates' admission tests, so how I conduct the test is none of your business," Yu Qixin replied languidly. At this time, Elder Luo had also rushed over, frowning as he looked at Yu Qixin. "Elder Luo, Xiang Beifei, he," Yi Changfeng said urgently. "I saw it." Elder Luo's gaze was piercing as he stared at Yu Qixin. Yu Qixin felt uncomfortable under Elder Luo's stare, but he still said, "This is the assessment I am in charge of." After a moment, he sneered again. "Aren't you very confident in him? Do you think he can't handle this situation? He has no experience with the external desolate realms. He hasn't even systematically studied desolate beasts, and you send him there on his first test. How is that different from sending him to his death?" Yi Changfeng shouted. "Did you have the guts to try the external desolate realms right upon admission? I remember, on your first visit to the external desolate realms, you nearly died under a mad claw beast. And you were an SR level then. Not to mention, you had studied desolate beasts at school for 6 months and reached the late stages of chi controlling before you went. Yuchi-shin's face darkened. What are you implying? You know exactly what I mean. You couldn't even pass an assessment after half a year of studying. How dare you expect a high school student who hasn't received formal training to undertake such a task? Yi Changfeng's tone became increasingly aggressive. The other elite students saw Xiang Beifei disappear and were first stunned, then became somewhat incredulous. Did I see that wrong? This doesn't seem like a simulation training, Tao Jin asked uncertainly. Surprise also showed on Yu Xiaoyao's face. Definitely not. That was... Lu Jiwei's complexion changed drastically. Yuchi-shin surely didn't really teleport Beifei to the outer domain's desolate wilderness. Did he? In everyone's understanding, today's assessment should have been Yuchi-shin using the training field to simulate a scenario for Xiang Beifei to complete in a simulated environment. No matter what the scene was or how difficult it was, those who participated in the simulation training, even if unable to pass, would at most be beaten to within an inch of their lives, covered in wounds and lying unconscious for 3 days and nights, but there would definitely be no danger to their life. However, Yuchi-shin changed the content of the assessment on the fly, using the teleportation sphere to send Xiang Beifei into the wilderness outside the domain. The desolate wilderness outside the domain is different from simulation training. During simulation training, those desolate beasts are all virtual, and although very realistic, they won't kill the students. But the desolate beasts in the wilderness outside the domain will. Normally, elite students at Liangzhou University need to study the relevant desolate beast knowledge courses first, learning about the various danger levels in the wilderness outside the domain, coping with various wilderness scenarios in the simulated training grounds, and only when they have earned enough credits and passed various simulation trainings with satisfactory scores, and their cultivation has reached the late stage of chi controlling, are students permitted to go to the real wilderness outside the domain for practical training. This practical training also needs to be led by the school's teachers to minimize the danger. Even for their batch of first-year students like Lu Jiwei, who had studied for a year at the school, the number of those who truly passed and were qualified to go to the wilderness outside the domain for practical training was fewer than 20. Because most of the freshmen had almost all failed the simulated training in the wilderness outside the domain, being killed by the desolate beasts in the simulated scenarios without any power to fight back, so they were not qualified to have practical training in the wilderness outside the domain. And Xiang Beifei had just awakened his system less than 2 months ago. What he studied in high school was the most basic Juzhou cultural courses, and some knowledge about the wilderness outside the domain was only roughly introduced in textbooks, far from the actual cruel and dangerous conditions of the real wilderness outside the domain. High school students couldn't even recognize many basic desolate beasts, not knowing that desolate beasts need to be classified, what the different weaknesses of each type are, how to kill them. High school students have not learned these things. These are all content to be studied at university. And yet, today, Yuchi-shin didn't discuss with anyone and directly teleported Xiang Beifei to the real wilderness outside the domain. Net. In everyone's eyes, this was no different than throwing an infant directly into a group of lions. The Long Yuan sword beside Yi Changfeng started to tremble, with sword chi swirling around him. He was usually a very peaceful person, his sharpness hidden, and was known among the students as someone easy to talk to, but today he seemed on the verge of losing control. Clearly, what Yuchi-shin did had touched Yi Changfeng's bottom line. Yuchi-shin responded coldly. If he feels he can't stay, he can simply crush the iron ball to come back. You didn't explain this to him in detail. You didn't even tell him how to come back. Yi Changfeng said angrily. Would Xiang Tianqing's son be that stupid? Yuchi-shin sneered. Yi Changfeng stared at Yuchi-shin intently. Elder Luo, who had been silent, asked, Where? Cultivated Domain, South Mountain 2nd District. Yuchi-shin responded coldly. Are there any more teleportation spheres? Yi Changfeng demanded. No, I made only one. Yuchi-shin knew that Yi Changfeng would interfere, so he did not give Yi Changfeng a chance to help Xiang Beifei. You're going too far. Beneath Yi Changfeng's feet, a ripple had already appeared, and he turned to leave towards the cultivated domain. Yuchi-shin snorted coldly. Maybe he couldn't last 10 minutes before he ran back here. You might not even get there in time. If I were you, I might just sit down and watch how he performs out there. Yuchi-shin tapped his foot on the ground twice. The ground of the training field already showed Xiang Beifei's figure. With that iron ball, Yuchi-shin could project everything Xiang Beifei did in the alien wilderness onto the training ground so that everyone could observe. Yi Changfeng looked at Xiang Beifei below, his face changing from clear to cloudy, and said, "You better tell me you have a contingency plan. Guohan and Sun Rue will protect him in secret. That's the mission I gave them on the fly. They've been training there during the summer break." Yuchi-shin dropped this piece of information, took a step, and the next moment he had already settled himself in the seats for spectators, then chuckled coldly again. He left 2 people to protect Beifei, but the orders he gave them were not to intervene until the last moment. "How many minutes can you last, Beifei? 5 or 10? Yuchi-shin didn't like how bright Xiang Tianqing's sun shined, much like Xiang Tianqing himself when he first started school, always outshining him, which filled him with loathing. In Beifei's punch, he saw the shadow of Tianqing, and that irritated him. He needed to teach Beifei a good lesson and curb the young man's sharpness. Xiang Beifei did not have any survival experience in the alien wilderness. He would definitely panic, unlike the arrogance he displayed when he punched Xiong Meng away. Soon, everyone would see this youngster trembling with fear. No one could complete a mission in the alien wilderness on their first try. Yuchi-shin wanted to take great pleasure in watching Xiang Beifei scared witless by a desolate beast. He knew that Xiang Beifei would surely give him that satisfaction. "Elder Luo, aren't you going to say anything?" Yi Changfeng turned his head to ask. Luo Laotu looked down at the ground, lost in thought for a long while. "It's a low-risk area. With Sun Rue and the others there, as long as he doesn't leave the effective range of the teleportation array, he will be fine. I just asked him to eat some sunflower seeds." Elder Luo left the training grounds, went back to the spectator seats, found a comfortable position, and looked at Xiang Beifei in the field. Yi Changfeng was slightly startled, then pondered for a moment before disappearing from the training grounds. When Xiang Beifei was caught by the iron ball, he realized this was no simulation training. He landed in a forest. The air was bone-chillingly cold, carrying a thick moisture. A faint mist hung all around, limiting visibility to roughly 10 meters. He stood next to a swamp, where the black marsh bubbled, thick vines stretched across it, and several sinister skulls hung from the vines, looking like desolate beasts strangled to death. He looked up at the sky. The sky was overcast, with a sun that was missing a piece. "Is this actually the alien wilderness?" Xiang Beifei was quite surprised. "This Yuchi-shin, has he really sent me to the alien wilderness?" High school textbooks only introduced a rough idea of the alien wilderness. If the weather was good there, one could see the sun but only with a piece missing, as if it had been bitten by a celestial dog. No one knew why the sun in the alien wilderness was like that, but it was the most obvious sign of the alien wilderness.